Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. My name is Chad Medved, for any of you who might not know me by now. Hopefully your week is going good. A little bit of snow a couple days ago, and, I ain't mad at it. I'm kind of happy. I want snow to be in. I put my Christmas tree up this weekend. I'm looking right now as I'm recording this intro. I am looking at a 5-foot Santa Claus that's staring right at me, life size. I guess life size for a shorter person, but I'm ready for it. Christmas is here, and that being said, I am throwing the second annual I'll Call You Right Back podcast Christmas Shindig. Probably not the title that I'm going to go with, but I'm going to use that for now. But yeah, I'm pumped about it. I told you last week, save the date for December 18th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., but I'm excited for this year's event. This year, I am throwing a double feature movie event at the Parkway Theater in McKees Rocks. You heard it right, 2 Christmas movies that are still to be decided. That is going to be up to Yins. I am going to hold a little bracket for what 2 Christmas movies need to be shown at this event. I want it to be something that Yins all want to see. I need to know what Christmas movies mean a lot to you. Slide in the DMs. Let me know what you think the 2 top Christmas movies should be played. It's very debatable. That's a loaded question. People all have their different favorites, but, we're going to see what kind of answers come in. Like I said, I'm going to be running a bracket on my stories. We're going to try to figure out what movies to play, but on top of those 2 movies, I'm going to sell a ticket. We're going to all come in. We're going to watch a movie. We're going to have an intermission between the movies. We're going to have a nice little catered lunch that I'm setting up with some of my boys. You already know that. And, then after that catered lunch, we are going to start the second feature film. And then, we're just going to have a hell of a time. In between, Steelers are playing. There's going to be a little intermission, and you're going to be able to watch the Steelers game while you're eating a little food, and then we'll be able to pop back in, watch another Christmas movie, and we're just going to be having a jolly old good time. Santa might be pulling up. Who knows what kind of good shit we got plopping. But I'm excited about it. Very excited. December 18th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., double feature Christmas movie with a little catered lunch and just a squad of great people. Going to be 35 tickets for sale. That's it. 35 tickets, and then it's done. So, if you want to get into it, if you want to assure that you're going to be there, follow I'll Call You Right Back on Instagram at I'll Call You Right Back. I'm going to post all the details on there. Hopefully, I'm going to have tickets listed by this weekend for you to grab. And I don't know. It's going to be a hell of a time, though. Tickets are going to include some popcorn, some pop, some Christmas cookies, hopefully, 2 beverages from Abjuration Brewing, which is attached to Parkway Theater, and 2 movie tickets to watch movies with all of us. It's going to be a hell of a time. Can't say it enough. So mark your calendar again. December 18th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to get buck wild in McKees Rocks at the Parkway Theater. Mark my words. Santa's coming. Anyway, the reason that everyone is here this week, I'm very excited. Long-time friend of mine, very, very long time. So anytime I have people on the podcast, it's easy for me to talk to them because I don't know about these people. I don't use notes. I don't have like a notebook filled with questions. So it's hard for me to have people that I know pretty well on the podcast because it ends up being like a kind of like a inside baseball type of conversation. I don't want it to be just like, us talking about things that you all listening might not know about, but this week, I sit down with Vinnie Candelore. Vinnie Candelore is an artist from Elizabeth, which is also my hometown. We went to the same school. We played football together for many years. We spent a lot of time together. I know Vinnie pretty well. Vinnie is a hustler. He's a grinder. He's the epitome of a full-time artist. The dude is a jack of all trades, to say that. This week, we're talking about kind of what he's been up to these past 15 years since high school, basically. I've always been keeping tabs on him from afar, as anyone from high school that you're friends with that's still doing something, you know, people are keeping tabs on him. Like, I see him on social media. We follow each other. I know what he's doing. He's out there killing it. But I wanted to have him in, and I wanted to kind of talk about it in depth. I wanted to kind of hear about his journey, because it's interesting, because you know, I love talking to people that are pursuing their passions and doing what they've always dreamed of. But like, you know, knowing Vinnie at such a young age, like, I knew that he always wanted to be a professional football player. And then, you know, on top of being a professional football player, he's always had his hand in the world of art. You know, he's always been someone that has been doing incredible drawings, incredible paintings. You know, he was commissioned at a young age to do a mural at our football weight room. And like, I remember watching that and thinking like, holy shit, like, this is insane. And, you know, after high school, he went along to play college football. And then whenever college football didn't work out, you know, art always was kind of sitting back there in the back of his mind. And he kind of has a wild story on how he got to where he is today. So I would urge you to look on Instagram at VC2, the number 2, at VC2art, and check out his artwork. Vinnie specializes in a lot of stuff, you know, but mainly his artwork is hyper realistic. Like, this dude is painting these super vivid photos of like these professional athletes and, you know, people just in general, of, you know, of like crazy detail. Like it's hard to explain what he is. And, you know, I know it's like an umbrella term, you know, fallen under as an artist, but, you know, Vinnie does custom sneakers, custom cleats. He is a video editor. He is a painter. He is a drawing, I guess drawer is not a word, but he's an artist, but he's also a podcaster. You know, he's a dad, he's a husband. You know, I don't know how he has the amount of time in the day that he does to create these paintings, because, you know, he'll paint 4 super vivid photos of Hall of Fame football players on a pair of cleats. And it's absolutely insane. Plus, dude is super nice on social media, you know, and I feel like people don't understand how much time that takes enough. Like, if you look at his social media page, if you look at his Instagram, like, it is curated, it's crisp, it's very nice looking. And I know it takes a lot of time, because I know how much time I put into this. So it means a lot to me to be able to have Vinnie come in and talk to me about his life in depth. And he has a pretty wild life. You know, he has some tragedy that he's experienced. His dad, Vin, who I also knew through football, passed away back in 2015 from cancer. And Vinnie opens up about that. We talk about that. And it's, you know, it's tough, because like, I remember Vin, and I remember, you know, how close of a family that him and Vinnie and his mom and his sister were. And, you know, it's just, it's a tragedy that you don't ever want someone that you know that has to deal with. But, you know, it was important to talk about that, I feel, because that had a lot to do with him going back to art and kind of how he got to where he is today. So I'll quit talking your ear off. I'm excited to put this episode out. I'm excited for everyone to kind of learn about who Vinnie is and more in depth. And if you don't know who he is at all, go on his Instagram at VC, the number 2 art, and check out what he does, because it's pretty incredible. It really is incredible. So without further ado, episode 223 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Vinnie Candelore of VC2art.
I gotta use the telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. Call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast.
It's like those 3 years are so pivotal, and like in my mind they were such a large chunk of my life.
Yeah.
But I think about the last 3 years and I'm like, oh, that was just such a, like, my daughter's 3. So
Well, it's like the fraction of the year gets smaller and smaller. You know, when we were like 10, 15, that's like every year is 1/10. So that's a big fraction, but now we're 30s. So every year is 1/30th.
Yeah.
It's a very small fraction if you think about it. So it's like relative to the way we conceptualized time back then compared to now, it's kind of weird because it's like, I used to just like think of Christmas and like, every year seemed like an eternity for that to like come back around. But now it's just like, it feels like it was like 10 minutes ago, it was Christmas and now it's about to be Christmas again.
Yeah. Well, like we were just saying, like you're a like winter weather guy. I'm like a summer and spring kind of weather guy.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like I was just in the midst of winter, like praying for warmer weather. And now I'm like preparing to burn yourself.
Coffee's so hot. A Yeti cup it's great, but it's like
so hot. Yeah,
it'll literally it's gonna scald your mouth. So
I'll wait.
I gotta take.
I'll take the lid off.
Yeah, I'm taking the lid off then because it's definitely gonna scald my mouth.
Do you have all the guests put these on or?
Yeah, it all is. Some people don't want to hear their own voice.
Yeah.
Some people are like they like it. It makes them feel more into it, but it's just easier to. It's easier for people to realize when they're like being super animated and pulling away from the mic.
Yeah, I hear that.
Like if you don't have headphones on, you can't really tell that like whenever you're talking back here, it doesn't sound the same.
Yeah.
But if it's up, But
you got a sweet setup here, man. I mean, it's like, watching you go from where you started and to what you've brought this thing to. It's pretty crazy.
Appreciate that.
This is awesome.
It's a long time coming. It still needs to. It's been pretty stagnant as far as design wise in here, but my mindset about it all is that like I just don't want to like just do something to do it, and like I just want to wait until I could figure out what I want it to be, and then I'll just do it then.
Yeah,
that's why it's like there's some places on the wall that need repainted, and I'm like I think I'm gonna paint these walls a different color, but it's like it's been over a year and I just haven't made a decision yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because I'm just, there's just other shit to do.
We moved into our house in 2021. Well, it was 2020 when we moved in. We finally like officially purchased it because we bought our house from Lindy's dad.
Yeah.
So Lindy's grandfather, my wife, for if people are listening, that's her dad, her grandfather passed away and left his house to her dad. And it was when we were moving back from Charlotte to Pittsburgh. So he was like, hey, if you're looking for a place, we don't know what pandemic's gonna look like, you could buy this house, and even if it's not like something you stay in forever, it's better than like throwing money out renting.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
But I haven't touched really the basement yet. Like I have a workspace, kind of like how you have this set up here, and you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with the other parts of it. Like we have a play area set up for Veda, but like with all our toys and stuff. But the actual like living space of the basement, it's finished, but it needs like a lot of work.
Needs stuff done to it,
and it's just been holding boxes. Like like you said, I don't want to start on it until I know what I want to do to it.
Yeah, dude. Like that's like kind of where I've been that way forever. Even with this podcast, it's like I did that one a long time ago in like 2013, and like that was cool. But I always wanted to redo it. It's just like I never realized what I wanted to do yet, and I'm more of just like step back and figure it out before I like jump into it.
Oh, really?
That's why like if I like I haven't put out a t-shirt in a while, it's just like I just don't have any ideas that I'm like in love with right now. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm not gonna
do it just to do it.
Yeah, I'm just not gonna like rush things for no reason.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know. That's like a stubborn way to look about it. But I mean that's
Is it like a form of perfectionism?
Not even that. It's just like I just feel like that I just feel like I want to give it some respect. I could just put some dumbass shit there. Like we all know some like brands that are like every trending topic, they just put a t-shirt out like that. And it's like, I could do that shit too.
Right.
And just put the catchy phrase or a bus in a hole. But it's just like, I don't know. I just want to figure out some weird shit.
Yeah.
And my own stuff really.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just me being stubborn realistically.
No, I think it makes it more exciting when you actually do drop something like the Halloween t-shirt.
Yeah, like that was cool. Like that just like went together, that came to be. And like, I felt good about it whenever I was doing it. So I was like happy to, it made me feel good about stuff. But, what you were talking about before, you mentioned your wife, but you mentioned her by her name. My biggest problem with interviewing people that I know for a long time, and I don't know, I'm curious if you have the same thing, is like how to not make it so like inside baseball,
Yeah.
like, like me and you obviously know each
could talk,
other's,
and
and it's like, people wouldn't understand it. And like my wife, Antoinette is like said, you've known him for a long time, so you have to be like conscious of that.
Right.
And that's why like it's hard for me to ever have like super, super close people on here, because it just ends up being a bad conversation for someone that's an outsider to listen to. You know what I mean?
I can imagine that.
I was thinking about that, like whenever you were coming over, and like how to kind of steer away from just it being Elizabeth forward, nostalgic talk that people aren't going to understand. But we do have a big history together. But like, how would you describe what you do?
I'm just as simple as I'm an artist. I create, and whether that's digital, painting, custom shoes, content creation, podcasting, I all look at it as it takes on a different form of my art.
Yeah.
So, just an artist.
I guess, that's an umbrella term. Yeah.
Creative.
General. That's a good term. Now, like, I mean, you've been someone that probably, I was thinking about it, and you're probably the longest I've known someone who's like been into like, painting and things like that, ever since like we were in, were you like 8th grade?
I mean, I've been painting and drawing my whole, the first time I started painting was 7th grade.
Yeah.
But I had been drawing my whole life.
I remember that.
I mean, it was
like sports characters, stuff like that.
Yeah. If you had asked me growing up, I was either going to tell you I was going to be an artist in the NFL or a WWF wrestler.
Yeah.
Like those were the three. It was like non-negotiable. I'm going to do one of these things. And then as you get older and you realize like like athleticism goes into like two of those three, and I have like more control over being an artist. I was like, let me just lean into this one.
Yeah. And that makes sense. But like even back whenever we were like in 9th grade playing football, it's like you painted our weight room, and like that was such like I remember that like being such like a crazy thing, like you designing that and like painting that and like coming up with the logo for our boxes.
Oh yeah.
And I still got that box in the garage.
For real?
Yeah. Got my Letterman jacket, you already know, and my jersey. But it's just like, it's wild that you are still pursuing the art and like, just honing in on it, because you're just like ripping on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to do anything else. Like, I feel like it gives me total freedom to be able to pivot, because I'm someone that like, I get bored with things really fast.
Yeah.
So, I felt like building a brand would be the best way for me to be able to professionally pivot and not like quit a job every 6 months.
Yeah.
And like go after different things that I'm passionate about and just keep pursuing different things. So I love variety in my life and in my work and in even like the form of art that I do. So I feel
that's
like,
why I ask you that, because it's like you can't really like label your art as one thing, because it's like you put out paintings, you do sneakers, you do graphic design stuff, you're doing a podcast now, and it's like you do all this different art. So you can't really, I wouldn't just call you like a painter or something like that. But that's originally how that was like the medium that introduced you to everything.
Yeah, it was definitely just standard, Miss Harris art class, and she really was the first. She was my 8th grade art teacher, and she was the first person that like was like, you should actually pursue this like in school. I grew up, I had a great uncle who was an artist, and he was sick in his later life, lived with my grandfather. So every time I'd go over to his house, like my dad's dad, he would teach me like how to paint, draw, perspective type stuff, like just
from
like
an early age.
I mean, like 6 years old. Like I was obsessed with monster trucks growing up, so he would teach me how to draw like Gravedigger, Bigfoot, like all my favorite monster trucks. It was just, he always just like whatever I was interested in is what he leaned into, and he was like, instead of forcing you to draw this, like I feel like at a young age, like getting into art, you're like, oh, I'm going to draw fruit or like whatever still life, whatever traditional art.
Yeah.
But he like taught me how to draw the things I was really
passionate about.
And that's what like hooked me. I was like, I can always communicate whatever I'm into through art in some way. Yeah. That's what I've done.
That's interesting to think about that, as far as like, some people, if you wanted to be like, oh, I'm going to draw this like, this mythical creature or whatever, and some people be like, oh, well, just draw a house or something, and try to steer you away from like where your imagination's already going. Mm-hmm. But instead having like the opposite of that, where he's like, yeah, draw some crazy shit. Like, just kind of get wild with it, because obviously if you're loving it and like that's already what you're interested in, you're thinking about, like, it's going to be easy for you to just like keep going and keep spiderwebbing from there. But it's like, if you're moving back and trying to be, led a different way, you know, you might not be passionate about the things that you're focusing on in that way. I was thinking about, like, you know, I'm always like fascinated by art because, like, you know, I have no artistic ability really. And as far as like physical, like creating things,
I don't know, dude, this podcast is like a vision of itself.
everyone says that this is art, and like I get it. Like I get it that this is art. Like, but anytime I talk to someone who like works in a tangible, you know, in a physical medium, painting, you know, drawing, anything like that, it's always wild to like try to just conceptualize how someone is able to do that because of how poorly I do it. So I like think about it as far as, you know, my abilities and like what interests me and like how you progress through this, because it's cool in the beginning that, like, you know, obviously your main focus of artwork right now is you do these hyper realistic portraits of all these like sports athletes, like incredible amount of people. But it's cool to hear that you say that like you got into it from like, you know, monster trucks and it kind of like worked its way through there, because I definitely remember you drawing like sports figures early.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was whatever I was into. Me and one of our mutual friends, Brian Skagline, we used to grow up drawing WWF wrestlers in fifth grade together. And like, you know, I can't tell you how many times we drew the Hardy, you know, Hardy Boys, and like just, I don't know, that like staying in within my lane in my creative process and like not getting too far away from it is easy for me, because it's like whatever I'm passionate about at that moment is what I'm painting. And sports has been the biggest consistent, you know, like obviously I'm still not drawing wrestlers.
You should.
I'm just not. Maybe I should.
You should. It's getting crazy. You need to do a Logan Paul picture now that he's like going to be.
I saw what you shared that.
Dude, I used to, you know, I'm not even to be tangential. I used to like hate on the Paul brothers.
Same.
Gangsters. They're gangsters.
Yeah.
They're doing dope shit. But, you know, to speak onto what you were saying about like your passions and drawing, the reason I even brought that up is that, like, you know, whenever I was younger, I feel like everyone draws. Everyone has like, you know, a notepad, and like that's kind of what like your parents give you to like kind of kill some time. But for you to like kind of realize that was like something that you loved, and that you were able to like kind of, you know, lean into it and hone it in and get better at it. Like I was just not good, and I just immediately was just like, oh, I'm not good at this. I'm going to move on to, you know, tech decks or, you know, something like that. Yeah. But it's just wild to think about, like, you know, did you notice that you were like catching on to it from an early age? Yeah.
I noticed in elementary school that I had like friends that would give me their snacks at lunch if I drew their favorite Pokemon or whatever. And I'm like, okay, so people, like at a young age, I was like, people actually think this is good.
Yeah.
They're like, I mean, gummy snacks in recess in fifth grade, dude, that's like a hot commodity. So if they're willing to give me that in return for, you know, a drawing, I was like, okay, I can lean into this. And it's like, you know, you take chorus, you take band, you take all these things. Nothing ever excited me, or I never like went into a chorus class and thought I could be the best one in here.
Yeah.
But like you know, like I never did. And I never had a passion. I didn't have the ear for music. My dad did.
Yeah.
But I didn't. And so, but when I walked into an art class, I wanted to win first place in every art contest. I wanted to like be the best, not to compete, but to be the best artist that I could be.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And so I think that was like where I started to know, I was like, I think I can do something with this.
I never made good decisions as far as like my interests, because, you know, like in school, I took art class the whole time. Miss Harris, Miss Dubinsky, all them. And it's like, I hated art because I was so bad at it.
Yeah.
And like, I was also just kind of like, you know, not the right, I wasn't the best type of art student, because I would just get frustrated and I would be done with it.
Yeah.
And it would just be like, you know, messing around. But there was people that were able to like, you know, take lesson and like, you know, apply that. And it was so weird to like, you know, I don't know why I took art all these years, and I never really loved it, but like there was screen printing, there was photography, stuff that I probably would have loved even more. I just never took it.
Yeah.
I just never really like made decisions in that way. In high school, like, did you kind of, like, what was your thoughts as far as, I know you wanted to play football, you know, I understand that, but like, did you have any idea of like what your career you wanted to be?
No. I still don't know if I know what I want to be. Like, I feel like I said, it changes so much all the time. I know it'll always stay creative, but in high school, no idea what my life was going to look like.
Yeah.
I genuinely thought like I was going to play professional football, whether that be overseas or some capacity of professional football.
Yeah.
And, obviously that didn't like go as planned. I had a broken hand my senior year, and so like any colleges that were really interested in like scholarship or whatever,
You're on the back burner then.
yeah, I mean, you can't really put up big numbers with a cast on your hand when you're a wide receiver. So, that was hard. And then I fell to I went to a Division II school.
Yeah.
And it was just a struggle from there. I had a lot of concussion issues, and that really changed like my perspective on not just life, but like my focus, because at that point my focus was still that, from a D2 school, I had teammates go on to play professional football.
Yeah.
And I felt like the same way I felt about art, about football.
Yeah.
Like I can walk in here and be the best person.
Yeah.
And I believed that until I wasn't. And that's when I lost interest for it. And that's when I shifted. And now doing the art and sticking into football is because I feel like I really haven't truly gotten over that phase of my life. Like a lot of people's, your art is really an expression of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's easy to, I think a lot of people can look at my art and my subject matter and think and easily dismiss it as like no depth really.
Yeah.
It's just photorealism of, professional athletes, but there's a lot of depth for me.
Wait, you're saying people can look at it and think that you have no depth in in what you're doing. It's just pictures of people.
Yeah. I maybe that's a voice in my own head,
Yeah.
but, I feel like, I see abstract artists. I see people that are doing, like, I don't know if like this is a fair comparison, but like when I'm doing a photorealism painting, sometimes I feel like I'm just like a cover band.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes 100% sense. Like there's a photo and you're recreating it. Whereas like if you're looking at what's the abstract type of painting where people like don't really know where they're going?
Yeah,
like know where the end is on your painting.
Well, yeah, I have a goal, and if I hit it,
Yeah.
I nailed that painting. There's like a pass or fail. But at the same time, the reason I bring this up is because to me, there is a lot of depth in that subject matter itself. So like
that people might not understand, like
For me,
your
yeah.
ties personally to football and like
Yeah.
how much.
When I'm
it's
45,
involved
I
with
may
you.
not be into painting football players anymore. Like
Yeah.
I may not be into that because I may have like fully processed through the way that my career ended. Like my career ended way before I wanted it to, and it wasn't on my terms due to concussions and injuries. So
This is a way to like kind of pay homage to that.
and it keeps it alive for me.
Yeah.
It keeps me tied to the game.
into that world. That makes sense. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I never really had like the love of it as far as like loving the game.
Yeah.
I literally just played it because to be part of a team and be
Yeah.
my friends are playing it.
Yeah.
Never gave a shit. I haven't watched a game in probably 10 years. Probably since like I got out of football. I don't know. It's weird to
you don't even watch it anymore?
I never really did.
Really?
I watched it whenever like
Yeah.
we were at a place somewhere and it
Yeah.
was on and like I understood it. I could process
makes
it,
sense.
but like I just
You don't get into watching. You watch
Nothing.
hockey though, right?
I don't have cable. I don't really watch any sports. I will enjoy hockey. I enjoy that most.
Yeah.
But it's like football was different because like there's people who like hold that passion that like it was ingrained in their DNA.
Yeah.
For that reason of just like, loving the game. And I'm just, and it's always like kind of fascinating to like kind of still be tied into that game because it's like people love it. It's like
Yeah.
their whole lives, a lot of people like base their lives around like the game. And I just like, I was never able to see it. So it's always interesting to see someone who's passionate about it. There's people that are passionate about like Steelers are obviously not doing that good this year,
Yeah.
but it's like people are passionate and they just like ride or die with their team. And you've definitely always been someone who's been like, heavy into the sports end.
Yeah.
Like you could always tell that you were,
Yeah, it was
you
definitely
loved
the
it.
first thing that I like on that list of 3 between wrestler, pro football, and artist.
Yeah.
Football was number 1, and it was the first thing I fell in love with, like in my life. I genuinely, it was the first thing that like I owned that was like, this is my thing.
Yeah.
And I'm good at this and I love this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you get over that. You know what I mean? It's like something that sticks with you for life. So
That makes sense. It does. It makes sense. What is like, while you were going, you said you went to lower division school. Now, while you're playing college ball, it's like, are you doing any sort of art at all?
I was an art major. So most of my classes were like fine art classes. I started as a graphic design major.
Yeah.
That was what I initially went for.
That's like the first thing you went through to after high school. That was your focus.
Freshman year,
Okay.
2010, graduated in 09.
I didn't know if you had like a weird, like, oh, I went for criminal science or something.
I knew like going there. I actually entered a contest there in West Liberty. I chose West Liberty because, like I said, all my
Not scholarships.
yeah, I wanted to say sponsorships so bad.
Scholarships.
Yeah, so all those dried up, like I said, and so I started going another route to try to get money, and that was through my art.
Yeah.
Because every school usually opens up like an art contest for incoming freshmen, and you like enter your portfolio and you can win a scholarship.
That's a common thing.
There was 5 or 6 that I entered back in 2009, so I don't know if it is still, but I entered, at multiple universities, and I won it too. I won the scholarship offer at West Liberty and Marietta College.
And what was your portfolio? Like, what was it?
Dude, like high school drawings, contests that I entered in high school, I'd enter those photos, and it was literally just a modge podge of like art that I created in high school.
And you just submit all that. And
I tried to show variety, different like pottery things and, whatever. You submit it, they review it. West Liberty called me in and Marietta called me in, and it was like they had a finalist and they wanted to interview the students to like see if that student would even be a good fit for their university.
Yeah.
And so I had called back at 5 of the colleges, and then 2 of them chose me. And so I picked between Marietta and West Liberty. I ended up choosing West Liberty because at Division II, on top of the art scholarship that I got, I could eventually, and I did eventually earn an athletic scholarship too. Whereas D3 Marietta, you can only get academic scholarship. And not dumb, but like I had a better opportunity. I felt like getting an athletic scholarship than I would have like being the top of my class and getting a scholarship there.
Yeah. So when you went to West Liberty, you went there originally for football. You were playing football there.
I wanted to play football in college. If I didn't want to play football in college, I wouldn't have went to college.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I guess so. That makes sense. You would have.
Because I still was at that point. Like I said, I was still pursuing professional football player as a career.
Yeah.
Like, the art was always something I'd fall back on.
Well, like what's your, like how do you really pursue that? You just go and you grind, and
Just
that's basically it.
Put some good, this was before social media really was a thing, and like you could like enter the transfer portal. So like you had to go.
What's a transfer portal?
So now in college football, it's like basically social media for athletes, especially with like the NIL deals and all this stuff. Like if they have a bad game or like they don't like the way the season's going, they'll literally get on this app. And I'm speaking from outside of it. I've never experienced this as an athlete, so maybe I'm like generalizing it a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's basically like, hey,
I want to be traded. Who wants me?
It's like Tinder for like athletes. Like swipe left and right on these different colleges and there's different offers, and they can like accept them.
You're able to just like
extremely dumbing it down right now for this conversation. But
there's no one that's listening that's like, oh, this ain't the way. But like people could just leave in the middle of a season.
Yeah, it used to be so different. I remember like transferring down a division or up a division, you had to sit out a semester, or like eligibility was so weird. But now you see guys like transfer. I mean, Jordan Addison from Pitt last year, he was the receiver of the year, won the he won the receiver of the year. What's it called? I forget what it's called. But and then he transferred, and he's now, I think he got hurt, but he was starting game 1 for USC. It's like,
oh wow,
I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but I'm sure he got a lot of money because now you get paid as a college athlete.
Yeah, that's
so
wild.
USC probably said, hey, what kind of deals you got going on at Pitt? Here's what we can promise you here. You got this deal lined up. You're going to be a multimillionaire before you even sign an NFL contract.
Yeah, that's wild. When did that all start to be allowed?
A year?
Yeah.
Within like 2 years.
Yeah, I remember that was like a big deal. That's pretty crazy to think about.
Wild.
Now, for you to, be in the, lower division, you said this is D2?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, is West Liberty a big school?
Not a huge, enrollment, but...
like their team, is it a good team?
Oh, man. I mean, any form of college football, you got athletes at every level. I mean, it's competitive.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean... you look at people like Pierre Garcon, made it from D3 and had he's probably one of the better receivers in the last 20 years in the NFL.
Okay.
I mean, you can make it from any level if you have the skills. A lot of people that are at the D2 level are Division I athletes that it didn't work out, or they got kicked out, or they failed out of their school, so they transferred down a division, and or they were really good and just didn't get the D1 full scholarships.
Yeah.
So they went D2 to get a full scholarship. So you had a lot of people that could play D1 football in Division II. And my freshman year, I had 3 guys that were All-American on offense. And one of them went on to play a little bit in the preseason. He got picked up by the Seahawks. And our quarterback was like the Division II runner-up for the Heisman 2 years in a row.
That's
and
wild.
he had, I think he got like hurt right before the draft or whatever. But I think he would have got a shot at playing in the NFL too. So you could see people at all levels reach that. And
there was potential down there.
Right.
You had opportunity if you utilized it.
And like I said, I was okay with if it wasn't the NFL. You have like professional football leagues everywhere.
Yeah.
So like I always thought I'd just be, even if I made like $50,000 a year playing professional football overseas for 10 years, I could make art and create a brand around that. Like I always thought football would be the main source of income. Art would be the side hustle until it wasn't, until it switched.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Now, speaking on that, like I'm curious because obviously now it's more prevalent it's more known by a lot of people, but did you ever have any thoughts of like, CTE back then, like wanting to, because I feel like when we played football, it was still like, rub some dirt in it,
Dude.
Don't be a little bitch about it, Rich Pierce smacking you with a whistle or something. And you're just like, this isn't the right way. But back then it was. And now it's like more known.
Yeah.
So it's always fascinating to me that like, people still want to like, completely like, just dive into this head first, no pun intended, but it's like it's crazy that's what it is. It's crazy that's what it is, and people still make them decisions. But you see, younger, really talented. I can't remember the dude, but I saw he was a younger, very good player. He retired early, and he's going to be a sports analyst and probably make more money.
A lot of guys are like pulling out a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like that was never something that was like thought in your mind.
Yeah, no. Growing up, I thought I want to be because I was always undersized. You know what I mean? I was literally 95 pounds going into 9th grade football.
Are you like 5'7", 5'8"?
I'm 5'10".
Are you?
Yeah, I would always put 5'11" on the books.
I'm a terrible judge of size, so I'm sorry for underselling that.
Good. Yeah, but like I was always, in high school, I was 5'7", 5'6". Like I was short. I was 95 pounds. I was like,
you were small in high school.
I was tiny.
Yeah.
And I didn't really start gaining weight until my senior year. I'm like a lot younger from my grade too. So I was always a year behind even the people in my grade.
Yeah.
But where was I going with that?
You're talking about being small.
Well, see here, I didn't even remember where I was going with that because we're talking about CTE. So this is like great on topic. I couldn't remember because I have CTE probably.
Yeah.
But, no, I never thought about that growing up. I was always I wanted to prove that even though I was undersized, I can hit and I can tackle and I'm not afraid of contact.
Yeah.
I had that Hines Ward mentality of like, I'm going to, put you on your ass if I'm blocking you. Like that was me. I wasn't one of those guys that avoided contact. I actually like really preferred it until I remember the first time that I really got my bell rung was, I think it was 10th grade. I caught a slant, like a quick slant on a 2-point conversion at Thomas Jefferson. Their middle linebacker just rocked me.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing green.
I feel like I remember that almost.
I don't know. I remember seeing green. I remember like thinking, whoa, that's weird.
Yeah.
And not saying a word. And just, finishing the game, whatever.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
No more head injuries throughout high school, really. And then I get into college football. Other than the broken hand, that was like my only injury my senior year. Get into college ball. My freshman year, I get redshirted, so I'm not seeing a lot of like live action in game. But my next year, which would have been my sophomore year, redshirt freshman year on the field, I get in cleanup duty at the end of the game. Like I said, we had like all-stars on our team that whole year, so I wasn't seeing a lot of time. And I'm blocking my own running back. Like I'm blocking for him. He puts his head down. His crown of his helmet hits the like side of my head, dude. If you're watching the film, like I jut out of the screen. You don't even see me anymore. I like went flying. And that was like, I was knocked out on the field, was like, not to get graphic, but I was like vomiting on the field. Like it was bad. And I don't even remember the whole bus ride home. That was at West Virginia State University game. So that's like a 4-hour bus ride home. I don't remember anything from it. I was out for like a month. Because at the time it was like really when the whole concussion, this is like around 2010, 2011, the whole concussion thing is starting to be known.
Yeah.
You got dudes in the NFL getting knocked out left and right, helmets are changing. They're evolving.
Yeah.
even from like when we were in high school.
I remember whenever I got one of the concussion helmets, like I think because my head was big as hell, they were like, oh yeah, we got like an XL, you could fit it.
But now if you wear that helmet in the NFL, they'll fine you because they're like, that helmet is not, I mean, that's what happened to AB. He wanted to use a helmet that was from like 3 years after we were in high school, and they were like, yeah, this thing isn't up to standard. Like, you can't. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, when he went to the Raiders and he had all those helmet issues or whatever, like he was like wanted to use his own helmet. They like kicked him off the team or whatever. And it was because it was like this outdated helmet that he wanted to wear because he wore it his whole career. And he didn't want to update it.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, well, if this helmet that came out 3 years after we were playing wasn't up to code, imagine the shit we were playing in.
Dude, I think about like running as fast as I possibly could down the field on like kickoff and like trying to hit anyone.
Yeah, dude.
And just being like,
you just wanted that pop from your sideline.
This person. And then you're just like, I have a headache now.
Yeah.
And then the whole rest of the game, I'm just facing Luke Nix with a headache and, a migraine, and you just got people banging your head, and we're just losing every game.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what am I?
We got our ass beat a lot.
What am I even doing here?
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know. I think about it now. And I feel like I talk about it on here all the time, but it's like, it's such a fascinating thing to me because it's like a decade of my life. It really was not interesting to me. And, but that just goes to show you, like, to piggyback on like, being in high school, you're just too young to realize what you want to do with the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And they just want everyone to pick and be like, sign your money to this school.
Crazy.
It's crazy. It wild, really is. Dude. Now you obviously, football doesn't, pan out like you wanted to. How does that
to close that off? After that first concussion, I came back, I got a second one, sat out for the summer, for the season, came back in the spring ball, got a third one. So 3 within 1 year.
Oh, shit.
And then they were like, hey, you need to really consider like the future. Like you can have issues. We don't know about CTE yet, but we know there's research being done. So I sat an entire year out of football. I didn't play my junior year, and it broke my heart watching my teammates go to practice. Like I felt like I had been excommunicated from this like core group of people in my life, and it killed me. And so then I actually came back my senior year and played my senior year. And I had, thank God, no concussions. But taking an entire year off in the middle of your career, it doesn't really help you as far as like playing time. Like people step into those roles, and now I'm competing for like not only playing time against the people I came in with, but like now new
younger
recruits
dogs,
and like
so
it was hard to step away and come back. But I'm glad I did, and I had a good last season. So I wanted to close that off. That's how my career ended. Basically.
Well, that's it's good that was like, it didn't have to end from that way, and you were able to just get back in again.
I still do have 2 years of eligibility. I still could have went back and got my master's and kept playing, but that was around the time, and I don't know if we want to get into this for this episode because, it's like a whole nother thing, but like when my dad got sick, I was actually considering going back to West Liberty because I didn't finish my degree. I had hopped around, like I mentioned, I started in graphic design, switched to art education, and then I went to fine arts was my major because I didn't like any of the previous two. So I could have went for one more year and got my fine art degree.
Yeah.
But when my dad got sick, they were like, hey, there's this degree. It's called a Regents degree. It's basically for people who suffer like hardship or like they have something that pulls them away from their schooling.
Yeah.
And it allows you to have a bachelor's degree so that if you were to get presented like with a job opportunity and they need to see proof that you have a bachelor,
something.
You have one, but it's not in an area of you don't have like a certified fine arts degree or whatever. And I was like, honestly, I don't even care. Like at this point. So I just took the Regents.
What year was this?
Degree, 2013.
2013 is whenever your dad got sick.
Yeah. He got sick in like 2012, 2013. I forget the exact like diagnosis date, but I was playing football. I remember walking off the field, and my dad and my mom were sitting there, and they never came to practice. Like it was an hour away. They'd come to they never missed a game. Yeah. My dad coached me all my life. He never missed a game. Even when I was sitting on the bench, like as a redshirt freshman, no opportunity to play.
Always there.
He's there at the game. And he was like my number one supporter. So walking off the field after practice one day and seeing him sitting there, I'm like, okay, something's up, And I went up and he was like, hey, let's go back to your dorm. I want to talk. And so he told me that he went to the doctor and they found stage 4 colon cancer and it had spread to his liver. And he was like, they don't know. We have hope. There's like treatments, but we don't know. And I'll never forget that moment. And
did you guys have any idea that
no,
that was just like, that was out of left field?
I mean, he had a couple issues like where he saw he was like, oh, I actually get that checked out.
Yeah.
And then went and got it checked out, got a colonoscopy, and like within a month they were like, yeah, he's got stage 4 cancer.
Jesus.
So it just came out of nowhere, and that rocked me. That was like that was my deciding factor, where I was like, I don't know how much time he has. So I actually went after that spring ball. I was planning on coming back, like I said. And I was like, no, I'm just going to take this Regents degree, which I needed like one more semester to finish. Mm-hmm. And so I did that from home. And I just wanted to spend as much time with my dad, because I didn't know how much like time we'd have.
Yeah.
So I started working, and that's when I started painting heavy, because I found a way to make money from home.
Yeah.
And like help
while
him.
You were still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think it's important to bring it up, because it's like your dad was always someone who's around all the time. Football always was like one of the parents that like super cool anytime anyone would need anything, like always was the guy there. So like for that to happen, and for that like tragedy to happen in your life, and like I always knew that you were close with your family, so it would be hard to like, go back to school and like leave all that behind. But it makes sense to stay back this way. I
didn't have a decision. Like at the time, it was like, this is the only option, is like, I'm going to spend time with my dad.
Yeah.
Like I'm so glad I did that. Like, that he fought for like 2 years, 2.5, almost 3 years. He was cancer free twice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He beat it twice, and it came back. It would be, in remission. And then he would have a 3 months checkup, and they'd be like, yeah, came back. We're going to run another round of chemo. And his first round of chemo was intense. Like it was wild. And then he had to finish up chemo with like this massive surgery where they split him basically from like his chest to like below his belly button.
Yeah.
And they like went in, they took out like 10 inches of his colon. They took out like 25% of his liver, and they were like, all right, like he did chemo, surgery, chemo. That was like his whole first plan. And I mean, it wrecked him. You know
I
what
bet.
mean? Like chemo itself, but then literally like them opening you up from like your chest to your stomach is like this massive, it was like a 12-hour surgery. We were just sitting in the waiting room, and they were like, there's no guarantee that he even makes it out of this surgery.
Yeah. You had to try.
He made it, he beat cancer, finished up his round of chemo. And then 3 months later, they were like, yeah, it's back, but we're going to hit it with another round of chemo. They did that. He was cancer free again. 3 months later, came back. And so it was just this battle for like 2.5 years. And then after that, you get to the point where they're just like, there's just nothing, there's no trials left. There's no whatever. And it's just time. And that's like the worst. I don't want to be like a downer on the podcast, but like,
that's a huge part of your life.
That really changed me. Like that was, I haven't been the same like since then. It woke me up. I went through a really deep, like dark spiral.
Yeah.
Right after that for about maybe like 2 years.
Yeah.
I just like, I didn't really have like the will to like live or like really do anything. I just was super depressed.
Yeah. And I mean, as you're rightfully so.
Yeah.
I mean, like someone who's as important. I mean, everyone's dad is important, but it's like, your dad is always around. It's like you were always close. So it's like, I understand that would change your life drastically. Anyone's life, it would change drastically. How do you like, pull yourself out of that and like kind of push through, because you were still here, right? Mm-hmm. You were still
when this all happened, I was living at my mom and dad's house.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like right out of college, and that was the other thing too. Was
what year was that? Did he pass away?
2015. Okay. So I left college in 2013.
Yeah.
Lived at home from 13 to 15 while he was battling cancer and all this stuff. And then those 2 years were like really bad for me, like mentally. And, not only was I watching my dad go through this, but I was realizing that like my first love of football was done too.
Yeah.
So I'm like dealing with
a lot of tragedy
right now. Like I'm like the two steadiest things in my life are done.
Yeah.
And so I started to actually push away all the other things that I loved. And I've learned this recently through like therapy and other stuff that I'm like really doing to help me get through this. And you ask, how did you get through this? I'm still getting through it. True.
Yeah.
Like,
you go to therapy for this?
I was going to therapy for a while. I haven't been recently going. I feel
you don't
like
even have to talk about this if you don't want to.
No, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think that our listeners wouldn't, like
people are
this
definitely.
kind of-
I mean, like it's a reality about people's lives.
yeah, okay, yeah, no, I'm okay with talking about any and all of this, or else, I wouldn't bring it up because, I mean, I think it is important for people listening. Like if they are going through something like that,
It's
like,
1,000,000% important to understand that. Yeah.
there's I think people is what is getting me through it. Like
Yeah.
people, different people at different stages of my life have got me through certain things. Seeing my mom, still having to like work and make a paycheck to make a living when my dad was like the main breadwinner in the house.
Yeah.
That's motivation enough for me to keep going because like I want to be able to retire her someday. Like I want to, I have drive to see other people, to relieve other people from like things that they're going through. That's like what pushes me.
Yeah.
And, that was 2015. He passed. Like I said, those 2 years I was like struggling heavy. And so I don't know if I finished my full thought on that, but
That's all right. Like now, how do you like? I know that you ended up moving south. How does that even happen?
yeah, so that was, that was very random. And, basically, I was saying when I realized football and my dad were gone and they were out of my control, I started pushing away all the other things that I loved.
Oh yeah.
Because I was afraid that eventually those are going to be ripped from me too. So I better do it on my terms. And I need to get them out of my life now so that I don't have to worry about losing them later.
Yeah.
And that was my like girlfriend since high school at the time, Lindy. I started pushing that relationship and now I'm married to her.
Yeah.
But I started pushing that relationship away to the point where we were broke up. And then I started like pushing away art. I really wasn't creating anything.
Yeah.
I was focused on like getting drunk, getting high, like
Trying to numb it.
I wanted to just escape.
Yeah.
And so for 2 years, that was my life. And then just like I said, people kept me around. I really do attribute it to God that he saved me through that time, because without like a higher power or like something to have faith in, I think I would have really went off the deep end. I always had a relationship with God in my heart. I never grew up religious. I didn't go to church growing up. I didn't go to like CCD or any of that stuff. So when I was introduced to like Christianity later in life, it was like all new to me. But it confirmed a lot of things I had always thought in my heart about how God should be, versus like the rules God that
that's
you grew up
100%.
about.
I agree with that for sure.
So
because I grew up I grew up CCD, everything like that. It's like, it's not that I don't believe in anything. I just don't follow a organized religion.
And I would say I don't either. Like I can't get behind it.
I'm all for it. Like I believe absolutely a higher power, things like that. But it's just like, it's an interesting thing to discuss.
And I get like, I get really invested in whatever I'm doing. And for that time of life when I was introduced to the church, like I said, I was going through this like super dark time in my life, and Lindy actually was the one that reached back out to me because she had started going to this church and she wanted me to go. And I was like, we were just getting back together. I was like, nah, dude, I'm not doing this. Like whatever. I was still holding on to like a lot of stuff. And, I started going, and it was great. Like I met a lot of really cool people and people that really lifted me up through that time and like helped me see things a little bit differently with my dad passing. I actually had started going there a little bit before my dad passed. So it's all like, to me, it's really kind of like this cluster that I can't even like timeline and like dates of things are so fuzzy for me, because that was another thing I learned is like when you're going through trauma, your brain actually protects you and like it doesn't hold on to like a lot. It lets go of a lot of like the details. So going to church, that was what led us to Charlotte. To give you a long runaround answer of that's why we moved, was because Lindy was looking for work, and we actually thought, we were like, hey, this might be a like fresh start for us. We had just got married. This is like 2016 now. And we moved to Charlotte. She found a job down there teaching, and I was like, I'll just be an artist or whatever and like volunteer at the church. And then I ended up working at that church. I did like all their youth direction. I was the youth director at the church. And so like I organized all their youth group stuff.
Were you still doing art then?
Yeah.
Getting back into it?
Yeah. Started getting back into it.
How did you get back into it? What was your focus? Like, what type of work were you doing where you like, I'm sure there was a time where it was a long time where you didn't pick up any sort of paint or nothing. It
really started to pick back up actually with graphic design. Like I started doing uniform mock-ups.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I
forgot about, I mean, that's kind of, I forgot that was like
Yep. That was what started it all.
Ahead.
Yeah, so I started this Instagram called Uni Edits.
Yeah.
And I would just mock up all these different types of uniforms, and people went crazy. This was like the very start of Instagram. And
yeah, where did that idea even come from? Was there people that have done that before?
My senior year at West Lib. Well, I had seen it, but not like I felt like I was innovative in that role.
You were. I don't feel like, because granted, I'm not really in like the sports world, but like you did like a complete, know, it wasn't just like
that thing blew up too,
a couple little things. It was like a complete restructure of the uniform.
Yep.
And it was definitely dope. And I swear the Bengals ones that just came out, they looked like the ones that you did before.
That's happened a lot over the last 10 years, and I'm not trying to like pat myself on the back.
But I looked at that.
I've done a ton of mock-ups that I then see teams do like 3-4 years later, actually wear them on the field, and I'm like, I know that post went viral, so like I wonder who saw that and like influenced. I'm not saying it did, but but it's possible.
It's understandable. But you started off like whenever Instagram was like, how weird is it to think about like, back then about what it was and like, how people utilized it compared to what it is now. Because obviously now it's like your whole business is on there, my business is on there, and it's weird to think about that. But the Uni Edits is interesting because that was easily, you have always been good with, the content that you create has always been very snackable and shareable, because it's like people, it already has a base of passion. People are already passionate about them things, whether it's whether it's Steelers, any players, people, they like to see that small, intricate change of something that they already love, because it's like an action figure with a different, uniform on. But I always thought that was cool that you were able to like, because I remember it catching on early.
Yeah, it really did. I was working at a gym. What's the gym in Court Time?
Alpha Fitness.
I was working at the desk there for a few months, and dude, there was nothing to do, so I would just sit there on my laptop. But it actually started in college. Like I said, I switched my majors several times, and then my senior year, they were like, "What are you going to do your senior art show on? You're into painting, you're into drawing." And same thing. I was always all over the place, and I was like, "Hey, I want to do a whole graphic design." Show where I'm going to redesign all 32 NFL uniforms and make like whatever. And they were like, dude, you haven't taken a graphic design class since freshman year. Why are you like, they're like, you realize if you fail this show, you don't graduate.
Yeah.
Like you don't. And now they were like they had to give you their blessing.
And I was like, I'm sorry, you said that you were already doing these before you were doing that project?
No.
Oh, okay. So
I had just started doing them, and I was posting them on my personal Instagram, maybe for like 3 weeks. And I was
getting a little bit of buzz, but like you had that seed planted where you were like, oh, I made a few of these, I could jump into this.
All I wanted to do. I started failing my classes because I was in class on my laptop designing uniforms.
Yeah.
And so I started going in, and I was like, listen, this is the show I want to do. And they were like real hesitant to like okay it, because they were actually concerned that I was like going to sabotage myself and not pass and do a bad job and fail the senior art exhibition.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I did it well, and I passed. And from there, I was like, people like this, and I self-taught Photoshop and Illustrator.
I was just going to ask, like, how did you learn how to do this?
I learned the very basics freshman year when I was like I said, I went for graphic design. So it was, at the time, it wasn't on the cloud. Like, you had to download software onto your laptop. And so I signed up for graphic design because incoming freshmen got the package for free. And it was very expensive back then. I got all the software from them, and I learned it, and I started teaching myself and
expanding on it.
Yeah. So then when I was out of school, I launched Uni Edits, started redesigning stuff. A bunch of like Reggie Bush at the time shared one, and like just early Twitter and like whatever. I had some athletes like sharing because it was so much easier to get their attention.
Yeah, it's weird to think about that. Like even whenever we had this podcast in like 2012, whenever it was, we interviewed Bert Kreischer, and it's like back then no one really knew who he was. We only knew of him because of Rogan. Like I remember the day that he was the first time he was on that episode and he told that machine story, and then we just randomly hit him up, and it was so reachable compared to what it is now. Everything was so reachable because we literally just DM'd him and he was like, yeah, absolutely, come on down. And now if you think about that, it's like there's no way. And that's crazy to think about the Wild West days of social media, because the game is different now for sure.
It's so
You're
much
just a drop in a bucket now.
Yeah, half the time if you just message someone now, it's just sitting in their request folder. They're not even checking it unless you got a blue badge next to your name. So
I know,
it's like
crazy.
You know, it's like, you know, back then I'm thankful that I hopped on that train early because that got the momentum going. That's how I got into uniform design with I worked with an athletic apparel company for a while. And, you know, just helped do the designs and the social media for them.
You made us a jersey for our softball tournament. Yeah, you made us those too.
Those are wild.
Those were wild colors, but that's what was cool about it, and that's what was easy for people to, like, you know, for it to catch people's eyes. It's like, you know, people know what the Steelers uniform were, but you did like a completely unique take on it, and like would add in, you know, big color bursts.
My goal was to like piss off my traditional like Steeler fan base.
Yeah.
Basically like a normal Yinzer that would look at that and go, hell no. Like I wanted them to like something to boil up when they saw a Steeler uniform that had red and blue accents in it. And they're like, no, we're black and gold.
Yeah.
Like that was my goal, because I knew if I could like rile them up, they'd be talking about it.
Yeah, because
then it would get shared.
Yeah, exactly. That's smart. All press is good press, right?
Yeah.
Now that caught on, and you started working for that other company, and you were making uniforms and like designing them. Yeah. Now, how long did you do that?
I did that like from 2015, because I've had every job possible, I feel like, since college.
Yeah.
I was selling shoes at Finish Line. I was
car salesman,
selling cars,
right?
At a Chevy dealer.
I never done that. I feel like that's something I still have to check off my list.
I feel like you did. Yeah.
I could sell a car.
I've always you would be a great car salesman.
I would sell a car.
You would.
I could sell a car.
What kind of car brand would you pick?
I don't know. It got to be. I'm very, very. I'm my own worst enemy, because like I stand behind my morals. And like if it's not something that I would drive or something that I would like, I can't get behind it. Mm-hmm. Like that's something I've always respected about you is you're like you're genuinely a truth teller, and I've always appreciated that. I try to be.
Yeah,
because there's too much fluff around, and it's like I don't. That's why I don't want to I don't like supporting things that like I'm just not interested in, because it doesn't feel real. You know what I mean? But probably a Subaru. I'd sell a Subaru probably. Yeah.
We had a Subaru Impreza for a while. Lindy's dad used to sell Subaru at Kenny Ross.
I like a Subaru. Yeah. You know, car salesman is something I haven't done, and a waiter and a bartender.
You haven't been a waiter?
Never been a waiter or a bartender. Too. Were you? Where at?
Steak and Shake, baby.
That's crazy. That's
in high school. Yeah, I used to make bank there too.
I bet.
Those 4 for $4 meals, dude.
I bet you had the quantity over. You would just rely on quantity.
Oh, dude, if we're busy, I'm making money. If we were dead, forget it.
Nothing.
Like, yeah, I mean, but that's any serving job.
Well, how does it start where like, you know, people are just reaching out to you and being like, oh, I need a uniform for like a little league team, or like a
word of mouth was like everything when I was doing stuff with that for that brand.
Yeah, no, I mean, like customers were like smaller teams, or like were you doing like college teams?
So our biggest like meeting that we had was we were up for the CIAA, which is like HBCU Division II conference.
Yeah.
We were up for their entire conference to outfit them.
Oh, that's cool.
And we was up against Under Armour, but it was through like a contractor. It wasn't Under Armour in the meetings. It was a company that could sell Under Armour. And so we were up against them. They ended up like undercutting our price, and that was like a weird, meeting. It was like the owner of that company was a CIAA alumni. And so he knew a lot of people, and that's how we got favor and like got into these meetings and whatever. But it was like almost every time we went into those meetings, it was, obviously we were trying to prove ourselves because we're an up and coming company.
Yeah.
But everything was very questioned. Like almost like they didn't believe.
Yeah, you're a newer company.
Yeah.
Can you make this happen?
But it was so weird because it was like he was one of them. Like he graduated with them. It's like he's one of their peers, and I went into these meetings and I watched them pick him apart, and like
that's business, baby.
But we had a better system than the company. The company that ended up going in there and getting the contract ended up, I think, forfeiting it like a year later because they did an awful job. Yeah. So, but that to say, we had like the biggest meetings, and then most of our normal clients were club softball teams like you were on.
And you were able to just like kind of have free reign with it?
Yeah. I mean, I would just I would give like each team like a very traditional and then a very crazy mock-up. And then I would give them both. I would give them two options. I'd be like, this is a very like, insane, crazy design. And then they'd be like, I'd see which one they gravitate towards more, and we'd make tweaks to those.
Yeah.
And then from there, we had production overseas and different places in the United States, and we would send them for different sports to different, places to get produced. They get shipped to us, and we deliver them. So
that's sick. That's an interesting job for sure.
Yeah, it was cool.
Now, I mean, after that, you just full time, right?
Well, after that, I went into working for the church in Charlotte. That was when I started working at the church as the youth director.
Oh, yeah.
So that was actually a full-time role. I was not only the youth director, but I was also like in charge of their content and social media there.
Yeah, I remember that now. You were doing like classes and stuff, painting classes and everything. Mm-hmm. I remember that now.
So I did a bunch of stuff at the church, and I actually still work with them. To this day, I'll edit some videos from them from home.
Yeah.
And it's mostly contracted, but if they need help on like video editing and stuff, I do that for them. But yeah, it's I kind of look at that relationship now as like a client of mine.
Yeah.
Like video editing and content creation is kind of a branch of my brand that I offer. I've done some corporate gigs recently where they have like online seminars, and then they want to show like a recap video at the end of the online seminar or like in-person seminar. They send us all the footage. Me and I have like a team of some videographers and editors that will like put together like a final, highlight film of their event and get it back to them for the next day. And so I offer like several different services, and that's kind of falls under that umbrella of how I still work with the church.
Yeah. A bunch of tools. You do a bunch of stuff.
Gotta be versatile, man. When you don't have like anything to fall back on, like you got to find a way. Like there's times where people aren't ordering shoes.
Yeah. So
I got to make ends meet, So I found ways for when it's real slow. Like, okay, I can fall back on this.
When did shoes even come into play? Because that was like an interesting thing, years ago, and now it's like making a resurgence again, I feel.
So I didn't grow up like a sneakerhead.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that are sneakerheads now are because they grew up wearing Jordans, all this stuff. I grew up wearing like the cheapest Nikes my mom could find because we didn't have anything. We didn't have like really money. I mean, anything I needed, I had.
Yeah.
Don't let me say that. My mom did a great job.
Yeah, but you didn't have to.
But we weren't getting $200 Jordans.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when I started working at Finish Line, that's when I got into sneakers because it was the resurgence of like retros and all this back in like 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
And then there was a guy in Pittsburgh named Hippie Neal. He was with Refresh Pittsburgh. He was customizing sneakers for like Wale and all these rappers and like
whatever happened
Wiz.
to him?
He's still around. I still talk to him. Yep. Yeah, I think he's still for a while he transitioned from doing custom shoes more to like refurbishing and cleaning sneakers.
Yeah.
But I think he still dabbles in it. But he's not like real big on social media. He hasn't posted on Instagram in like years.
Yeah.
So, but I'll still message him and whatever. But he really kind of was the first person I saw have success with it. And
yeah, it's funny you say that. I do remember him being like the first one that you would see doing things.
Yeah. So I actually hit him up, and he invited me over to his house at the time where he worked from, and we just sat there and we painted together. I actually like burned a hole. I think I told this story before, but like I burned a hole in a pair of shoes that I was working on at the time because he gave me a heat gun.
Yeah.
And I had only been using like a hair dryer before to like dry the paint coats. And I didn't realize the heat gun got so hot. And I'm sitting there like watching this movie, and it's just like, he's like, yo, dude, yo. And this thing, I look down, it's smoking. The shoe's smoking. I burned a hole through a pair of LeBrons.
Oh my God.
It was like a $300 pair of shoes. And I like panicked. And then I ended up, I hope the guy I made them for is not listening to this. I told him that they were the lava LeBrons and that they were like molten lava, and I burned a few more holes in them.
No way.
And I sold it to him as they look dope. Now, okay, I didn't like scam this dude, but like
You made it work though.
I made it work, and it wasn't like his feet were popping out. It was like on the side there was like a little small burn hole. So I was like, oh, I can either make, because he gave me free reign on what to do to them.
Yeah.
So I made it this like lava type burn.
Wow.
And it worked, and it looked dope. So if he is listening, I will tell you, like,
that's part
I
of the
would have gave you your
story.
money back, but I thought that it was a great piece of art, so I gave it to you.
Yeah, that's a good part of the story. That's pretty cool.
But Neil is who got me into that, and then I just kind of took off from there. And
That's so weird. I forgot about that.
Yep.
That's interesting.
yeah. So he was who got me started.
And then sneakers, like, you know, I mean, who were your first clients for sneakers? You know, is it automatically sports people?
The guys who would come in to Finish Line on a weekly basis and get all the release shoes.
Yeah.
I would go in there when I had like a new pair. Like I started customizing my own shoes at first.
Yeah.
And I'd bring them in and I'd sit them right on the counter. So when they're coming in there dropping $1,000 on all the sneaker releases that came out that Saturday, they'd be like, what the hell are these? Like nobody had seen customs at the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like they're like looking at these Jordans. They're like, I've never seen this colorway.
That's smart.
And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to see it.
Yeah.
And then I was
It's like, I
follow
can
me on
make it for
Instagram.
you.
So I started doing a bunch of like
shit.
client work through Finish Line. And then that just took off. I started working at the dealership after that. And one of our sponsors was, or one of our players that was like a voice, or what do they call it? Like a
Spokesperson,
affiliate.
yeah.
Was Steve McClendon. He was a defensive tackle at the time for the Steelers. He brought in a pair of cleats and I did them. That was my first like professional athlete. And then
My goodness.
yeah, so
That's
it just
some
kind of
gangster
snowballed
stuff.
and
To just put some shoes up there and like kind of guerrilla market like that.
Yeah, dude.
That's cool. I have to ask you, you know, they do them like sneaker raffles. Like back then, were you able to just like hold shoes for people?
Yes.
Yeah. I figured you could have.
yeah,
Yeah.
we were making a lot of money.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. People would just slide you a little bit to hold a pair. Oh, that's nice. I like that. Now it's crazy to get some sneaker. Are you a sneakerhead now?
I haven't bought a pair of release shoes that like I had to, like all the recent sneaker cops are because I accidentally won a raffle.
Yeah.
Like I'll see it and I'll be like, notify me, and they'll be like, do you want to enter this raffle? I'm like,
Sickening.
sure.
Yep,
And then it's
sickening.
always the ones that I'm like,
Half on. Yeah,
all
you're
right.
like,
I win those raffles.
I know. I won 3 pair of Crocs the other day because this dude, he had these Pollux Crocs, Soleil. He has like 17 releases of these. I've entered all of them. And then they had like 3 releases and I was like, I'm going to enter all of them. I just won all of them for some reason. And I'm like, God damn it. You know, so
you
it's
got
just
3
like,
pair of Crocs.
yeah, he's got 3 different pairs. So it's just like, whatever. But I was never really like a crazy big sneakerhead. I just never really had like the money to.
You were always into like Vans and skate shoes and
Yeah, just a skateboard shit. And like, you know, those were cool. Like you were able to individualize, you know, your taste through skateboarding because like skateboarding was always, I feel like skateboarding was always at the forefront of it all because like they were always like, you know, the outcasts, the weird ones, always the weird colors. And then like it kind of, you know, started to gravitate back in like whenever they had them like LeBron Miamis where it was like the blues and the pinks and like all them neon colors come in. I don't know. It's interesting how that, how all comes to play, but like you're making sneakers and then are you painting it all while you're doing these sneakers?
A little bit. Yeah. People were paying at that time. I was just painting whatever people would pay me to paint, which like I was painting people's houses and whatever. I mean, I lived at Ocean City, Maryland one summer during college and I did a canvas painting of the dough roller, which is where I worked.
Wow.
And I gave it to them. So that's like something they have. I don't know where they have it hanging, but I was doing like a lot of like landscape type paintings and I would do mostly.
This is all word of mouth, you know, as far as like getting work.
Some of those are just because I wanted to do them.
Yeah.
Like I would just do them and gift it to the company or whatever, just because I wanted to paint. And I always wanted to like find a way to stay somehow creative, even if I was working at a restaurant. You know what I mean? Like I needed to do something to get that out. So yeah, but a lot of everything I've done has been word of mouth, whether it be through social media, word of mouth, people sharing. I mean, I still consider people sharing my work on social media word of mouth
for sure.
I'm not like paying ads to get my stuff out there.
Well, the reason I even ask about that is that like, you know, I feel like, you know, and just from what I see, you do sneakers now, but I feel like you're doing a lot of paintings. Like you're putting out all these paintings. So like, when does that focus kind of switch from being, because I know that the customized sneaker trend fell off for a few years where people just kind of stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And now I see people getting back into it again. And I talked to Camo Customs about that.
Yeah.
And we talked about that. And it was interesting to kind of like, you know, because I don't know, I feel like I forget about a lot of stuff. Like I forgot about like the whole customizing thing like that. And when does it switch to paintings?
That was something I've been wanting to do this for a while. I felt like I had this like photo reel skill that I haven't fully tapped into yet. And I feel like people didn't know that I had in my tool belt. And I wanted to kind of prove a point with this and be like, I can do this and do it well. And starting this weekly, so I started a weekly series of paintings this season that I'm doing to like recap the NFL season. So like every week I pick a player from like the previous week that had a killer game, and I'm capturing that moment through a painting. And that has been a very like hard challenge for me, but it's led to so many incredible like connections. And then like I did a painting for Cordell Stewart.
I saw that.
And he signed it, and like I got to meet him, and it wasn't for Cordell, it was of Cordell. And he signed it, and then we raffled it off. But just like, I wouldn't have had that opportunity if I didn't start this like weekly painting and start putting that stuff out there. And I've had a lot of people reach out since I started that, and I haven't sold one of those yet. I am doing that because I have an end goal. I've had people offer to buy them.
Yeah.
But, excuse me. I have an end goal of doing an art show, and I'm kind of like just in the very beginning stages of figuring this out.
Yeah.
But at the end of the season, I'd love to go to Arizona where the Super Bowl is and display this art show of
all these
weekly paintings somewhere around the Super Bowl festivities to like recap the season and like show this, and then either sell them at the show or like gift them to the athlete or the photographer that took the photo of the painting, something.
Oh, that's cool.
To either give them or sell them or whatever. So I don't have an end goal with that, but I knew like something was telling me to lean into it. But it's been tough because, like you said, when does the focus switch? It hasn't switched. I'm still pumping out shoes. So I'm just like, honestly, the focus has switched from getting a good night's sleep to doing paintings.
Yeah.
Because I'm still doing like all the shoes throughout the day for commissions and to pay the bills.
Like how many shoes a week would you say you're doing? Like how often, like how many shoes a day you do? Because like these shoes are, I think it's interesting because like the shoes that you do are so like intricate.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you like, how many hours do those take you?
I mean, on a low end, I can knock out a pair of shoes in a day, but some of the shoes that I'm working on, I've had on my desk for months because, you know, sometimes people are like, I'm not in a rush for these. I just want them for a trophy case. I want you to do the best job possible with them. And in order for me to not rush them, they need to take time. And like, so I would say I'm working on 10 pair of shoes
at one time.
So I don't know the amount of hours that go into each one.
Yeah.
But I'll have 10 sitting here on my rack.
And you'll pick one up.
And I'm like, okay, this is the one that's like, this deadline's coming up, so I got to get this one done.
Yeah.
This deadline's coming up. And I'll start like working on them throughout like the order process. I usually tell people it takes about 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I would say at week 3 is when I start working on your shoes.
Yeah.
And it by week 6, we have usually a finished product. So,
wow.
There's like a process on each one of them. Some of them are like, hey, you know, I literally just want this shoe painted from white to yellow. I can knock that out in a few hours.
Yeah.
But like if they're like, yeah, I want all this portrait work, all this stuff, it's for this event, whatever. I usually want to put a little bit of thought and creativity into it.
Yeah.
So I haven't like really sat down and like clocked myself, but I usually say like 4 to 6 weeks is like when you'll get your shoes back.
Wow. Yeah, it's intense because like some of them pairs that you got where there's multiple Steelers on there, you know, and they're like very vivid pictures of it. And I would have no idea how long stuff like that would even take because I try to think about like, you know, I try to make designs for like flyers on iPads.
Yeah.
And like I'm trying to make one for this Christmas event that I'm doing, and it's like takes me forever to do all this shit. And it's like wild to just look at what you're doing. But obviously you have like a process, everything's like fine tuned. You could probably like, you know, you get in that zone. What do you do as far as like, you know, blocks? Cause like I have creative blocks with shit all the time, even with just talking to people, with wanting to scheduling guests. It's like, this is a constant, you know, battle of my own mind, trying to keep this thing just up and running. And like, you just keep adding shit to your plate. And
Yeah.
you're just like, let's go. Because now you're doing this podcast, and like, I'm curious how this came to be, and why, you know, I know this is a loaded question that I just asked you. So I want to get back to the original thing. You know, you do a lot of work. How do you keep yourself, you know, grounded mentally as much as you can? Because you have like you have a wife, you about to have another kid, so
Yeah.
2 kids. It's like, that's time.
Yeah.
But all this work that you're doing is all just like time.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of time you have to pour into it. It's not just like you're going to work 9 to 5. It's like these things are taking longer.
Yeah.
How do you keep that in perspective?
Sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, you know, I sit here and talk about how I love this, I wouldn't do anything else, but man, this is not an easy route to take.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of hopes and praying that, you know, this piece will lead to this connection.
Yeah.
There's a lot of grace extended from my wife. She's an incredible mom.
Yeah.
And she does such an amazing job with our daughter, and now carrying our first son, that I'm just like, I'm so grateful that she hasn't given up on me, because the first time I was like full-time in art, when we moved to Charlotte, one of my biggest, not to keep tailing off here, one of my biggest things that I believe in a God for is because I genuinely don't know how I've made it through certain phases in my life, even financially. And I'm not saying God like gives people money and whatever, but like I look back and I'm like, dude, I made $12,000 one year. I made $12,000 was what I put on my tax form when I moved as an adult, married, living in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we made it work because my wife was a teacher, but not making a lot of money.
Yeah.
There were always just opportunities that came up, and something like some sort of break in our rent, because we were doing events in the building. We were throwing like these events for our neighbors, and they would give us a budget to throw parties and build a community within our apartment complex. That fell in our lap.
Yeah.
You didn't get paid for that, but you got a extreme discount on your rent. So, you know, we go from paying $1,100 a month to $200 a month to throw parties and meet people in Charlotte. It was like a dream come true. And that's something that landed in our lap. And I'm like, okay, like, where does that come from? Like, I wasn't pursuing this. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, how do I stay? I think it's just always remembering like the end goal, or like just enjoying the process of it and being okay when it's not okay. And like having those like core things that I stand on, and like what I'm going after and what my dream for my life is. And like, it always comes back. Like I said, I'm still going through this, like, you know, healing from losing my dad. And part of that was a perspective shift that like my dad was a creative. Excuse me. He was a guitar player.
Yeah.
Loved playing music. And he quit making music when I was born to be able to support a family. And I think his goal was that he would always get back to that.
Yeah.
When we left the house. And so to watch him reach 50, he was 49 when he passed. So I know I can either struggle and do a job that provides for my family, and there's no like ifs, ands, or buts, but I'm going to miss a lot of stuff. I'm going to be at work all the time. I'm going to be at a job or whatever, you know, because my other option is like blue collar work or like car salesman or something that pulls me away from the house several hours a day. So I can either struggle to make a paycheck and do that in hopes that I get to be creative later in life, or I can just struggle and do what I enjoy.
Yeah.
And like you pick your struggle kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, and so I've picked this struggle, and I'm okay with that, with what that means, because I know
the good and the bad that comes with the struggle that you chose.
Yeah. The good far outweighs the bad. And I feel like I'm just now kind of getting to a point in my career where the good is really starting to outweigh the bad.
Yeah. You're ripping.
But the bad is still,
I know it's still there. It's there for everyone, but it's like, it's hard because, you know, it's like if you think about people's lives, you know, you see it on Instagram, that's all highlight reels. You know, no one's putting their bad shit on there.
Yeah.
You know,
it's literally called Instagram highlights.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think about that because, you know, people see this podcast and they're like, oh, dude, it's sick. You talk to Sally Wiggin and like, you know, Mikey and Bob and all these people. And I'm like, yeah, that's dope. And it's cool. But it's like, this shit is a struggle too. Like, this is all just like, this shit gives me like severe anxiety to the point where I'm just like, you know, if someone cancels and I don't have an episode lined up, it makes me sick to the point where like I'm just like beside myself. But people, you know, I feel like it's important to even like, that's why I am so like, you know, interested and curious about people like you and like everyone else that I talk to and like how they kind of like manage what they're doing, because it's like on top of all this stuff that you do, all these paintings, all this, it's like you're still trying to just manage like a life, you know, beyond all this. And everyone's trying to do that. Like everyone's working, they have like their job that they have to do because, you know, you have to have money, and it's crazy to, I don't know. It's always fascinating to me how people are able to like figure out how to get by, because it's tough sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, you're just like, it's just stressful. And then like this podcast comes in. So obviously, you know, you're ripping on paintings, on shoes, like you're consistent with that. And like the content that you put online is wild. And that's like another thing where it's like, you know, that's a whole nother hours that you're putting in to create this like online content. And if you look at your Instagram page, it's, you know, very curated. There's a lot of time, thought, process in it. And I don't know, it's impressive that you're able to like, you know, do all this and like kind of get all this out. It's like, do you have like a process throughout your day? Are you someone that writes down a schedule? Is there someone that like, you know, how do you keep that in check?
I go off of deadlines.
Yeah.
And so I have like a strict deadline schedule that I go off of. And so basically at the beginning of the week, I'll look and be like, what deadlines are coming up? Okay, this one's a month out. This one has to get done this week. This one has to get done next week.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, I prioritize my days off of that. Okay. Once I see those deadlines of those projects, I'm like, okay, how many hours are broken into this? And I say, I always underestimate myself. And that's where my issue is. Like if I see I have 3 pair of shoes due this week, 1 weekly painting as part of my series, 1 podcast episode that I need to prepare for, shoot, and edit, because I do all that on my own. And the guest episodes, I have a team of guys that help me. But now that I'm moving to a weekly format, I'm doing that from my house and I'm editing all of that.
Yeah.
So I think about that time and all that. But
it's
it's always like, I never give myself enough time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always like, oh, this will take X amount of time. And then I get that amount of time into it. And I'm like, I still got 10 more hours in this project.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, I'm just not sleeping tonight.
Yeah.
Like that's just what it is. And so the podcast came from actually my buddy Cody that you had on the show, Cody Sable.
Cody Sable.
He was like, dude, I feel like, you know, you should start a YouTube channel. And he's like, I don't know what that means, but I feel like you should do it. You like making stuff. People, there's an audience for you.
Yeah.
And whatever. And when I first started, I had I'm the opposite of you. I'm like Michael Scott, where he's like, you know, I've had this idea since, but he's
start
like,
a sentence and I don't even know how it's going to end.
Exactly. And he's like, I've had this dream since lunch. You think I'm going to give it up now? Like, that's like my life.
Yeah.
You know? So I was like, I'll just start this podcast and figure it out as I go.
Yeah.
And there's reasons why that's not good, because now I look at like my first 4 episodes and I'm like, I'm like, should I take these down? Because it's not even the same vibe of what my show is now. Like it's totally different.
How many episodes do you have out?
I just put out episode 11. I was doing monthly throughout the year.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of November is when I went weekly. So now it'll be this week. I'll have episode 12 up and so on. So, yeah.
And that like you were talking about how it came to be. It's like the podcast. Now you were doing it monthly, but whenever you started it, you were having athletes on,
right?
And the basis of the podcast was talking about what, like
their life and how it related to sports and art. So that was the thing though, is like I really didn't know. Like I didn't know what every conversation with a guest went
in a different way.
Other direction, and I was okay with that until I realized this is what my audience wants. I'm almost less of a podcast and more of a show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm more of like a show that you tune into because, you know, it's like Dirty Jobs, where it's like, we're going to explore some dirty jobs and is that what the name of the show is?
Oh yeah. Dirty Jobs from Mike Rowe.
Right. So it's like, you know what you're getting kind of thing. Like people, I think my audience on that show is really into sports uniform and design.
Yeah.
Rather than hearing about their favorite Steeler and what their nickname was growing up.
Yeah.
Like there's other platforms that provide that.
Yeah.
I don't need to be that voice.
Yeah.
So I'm learning what my voice is in the podcast world. And I think it is leaning back heavy into the uni edits side where we get back into concepts. So I started this segment, and this was actually another idea. Like Cody has really helped me through all that. And also the hounds, Clay and Cole, that I think you had on.
Yeah.
I know you had on. They're incredible. I actually hired them at the beginning of this year to be like a consultant. So they created my logo. They've helped me create the brand and like a pitch to send us potential sponsors and all of that. But just a weekly meeting with them has helped me like hone in on, we review every episode. They've helped me so much. So, it hasn't been like just something myself. I've been like listening to everybody as I go.
Are you someone that's like easy? Is that easy for you to do? Like give away control of some things?
If I feel like they're going to do a good job with it, yes.
Yeah.
I'm
That's a good answer.
I'm more critical of who I give things to rather than like what I give to them.
Yeah.
Like if I trust you and I think you're going to do a good job with this, then I'll trust you.
Yeah,
like this logo was all on them. I had no vision for the logo and I was like, give me some heat. And this was actually the last option they gave me. They gave me like 6 different logo options. I really wasn't crazy about a lot of them, but it was weird when I saw this one, I was like, that's it. And I've got
it's like symmetrical. It's
got so
good.
many compliments
It's a
on
good
it
logo.
from other
nice,
people.
simple, clean. They do good work for sure.
I want to turn him into like a robot. I don't know if you could see it.
Yeah, you can definitely see it. There's legs and
Yep.
almost looks like Bender.
Yep.
Now, I mean, for your concept, like, so you're doing all these paintings, there's 24 hours in a day. You're doing all these
Right.
paintings, you're doing all these shoes, you're spending time with your daughter, your wife, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to start this conversation, with people that are, how long are your episodes?
Like about an hour.
Yeah. So, but, you figure
The weekly episodes, I'm going to drop down to like 30 minutes.
So you think about, I'm thinking about this as far as me. I probably spend an extra 11, 12 hours a week on this.
Yeah.
And for you to plan, shoot, record, edit, put all this out and post, and then post it all. It's like, do you ever, like what was the reasoning to wanting to do this rather than like you're spreading yourself even more?
Yeah.
But it's like, it's good because whenever you started to say like you were going to start doing this every week, I see people start podcasts and then like just drops off immediately.
Right.
And it's like monthly episodes. Like I see you put them out and then you put them out weekly and it's like, good. It needs to be weekly. There's no other way to do it. Mm-hmm. Do you listen to podcasts?
Yeah.
Now
love podcasts.
I hate whenever there's like skips and that's where my anxiety comes from.
Yeah.
Cause like if I have a show that I listen to every week and then they don't have one out,
it's a big letdown.
It's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You're 2 weeks without that. And it's like, it's easy for people to like not hold on to that still because there's other things you can go to.
Yep.
And I don't know. It just feels like I feel like that your sanity, like, what I mean? You just like, you keep adding stuff to it. It's fascinating how you manage it because like you put out this product that like looks great.
Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. It just goes like there's no
I guess
sweetening the pot. It's hard, man.
Yeah,
Like,
it all
there's a
goes
lot.
back to just like, everything looks good that you're putting out, but behind there's like
It's a lot of struggle.
It's a beast.
Yeah. But I genuinely love doing it all.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you got to be able to do this.
yeah. So I think like it just goes back to like picking your struggle, man.
What
Like,
about your paintings? Like, let's say you're like, you do these like super in-depth paintings, like that Cordell Stewart one. Like,
Yeah.
do you have any idea how long that took you?
The paintings are usually between 20 to 50 hours.
Okay, because that thing was like super crazy, you
Yeah.
know, very, very wild. How do you even
Thanks.
like process, like what's the process of your painting? Like are you someone that's just like, you have to wait until you feel okay to start it? Do you do the same type of thing every time?
Yeah, I think I definitely have like a flow of like, it's weird. Sometimes just sitting and looking at the canvas for a while, and then I'll watch like I am real big into podcasts. I watch probably like 10 podcasts a week while I'm painting, some of these are 2 hours. Some of these are 40 minutes, whatever.
Yeah.
Comedy, sports. I watch the Pat McAfee show, which is like a live podcast, because that really helps me create content like of what people are talking about in the sports
subject
world.
matter too.
Yeah. So,
because you obviously have to be in touch with everything that's going on.
yeah, I actually have like a dream of like, it would be so cool to be a segment on the Pat McAfee show where it's like a uniform update of the week where I
That'd
just
be
talk
wild.
about like design and stuff that's happening, because there's no sports talk shows that really dive into the art world of sports, but it's so interwoven.
Yeah, because if you look at any player, it's like you were like, this is where it was all kind of coming together. Is like back even whenever we were in high school, it's like you were always someone that like accentuated like our team colors, things like that. You always had like the wristbands, like you always flexed it out a little bit like that. And like whenever I was listening to, I don't remember who it was, he was on there. It's like everyone talking about their own expression, how you're able to express yourself within the constraints of wearing a uniform,
right?
You know, how can you individualize yourself like that? And I think that that's cool. That's kind of where the customized shoes found a home.
Yeah.
Because that's like a way for people to like, you know, put your, you know, if people like The Office, it's like you do a cleat that has The Office on there. Like that's cool that you're able to do stuff like that, because are you not able to, like, this might be a stupid question, but people can't just like, you can't really do much different to a uniform, your sports uniform, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, no, I mean, it's your uniform's your uniform. I mean, some guys will wear different kind of leg pads that like have some sort of, you know, decal on them or whatever, so that when they wear them underneath the pants, it makes like their logo on, you know what I'm saying? Like how it has the ribs on it. So sometimes they'll superimpose their logo over that. So there's different ways to express creativity throughout the sports uniform, but the uniform itself is the uniform.
Yeah.
Now in the NFL, you get your jersey custom tailored. So that's why you see like some quarterbacks with the like giant t-shirt jerseys, and you see some guys with the, like the shoulder pads, or like in their shoulder pads, the way that the style they use of shoulder pads fits differently on everybody for different receivers and different skill position, whatever. So there's so many things that like the average person doesn't care about. Even helmets. Like I'm obsessed with, like when a player changes their face mask, I know immediately. I'm like, I wonder why they changed that. I wonder if they had a concussion issue. I wonder if they like switched their helmet because they're having head issues, or if they just like the way this looks, or hey, they wore a visor last week.
That's interesting.
I obsess over that stuff.
So your conversation, like based on your podcast, is like that there's a home for that type of talk that is not there.
The audience that I found that there's an audience there in college, because there was a guy who used to write for Sports Illustrated. His name's Paul Lucas, and he runs an Instagram account called Uni Watch. And he would put out a Monday morning uniform update. So after the weekend of sports, he would write an article, and it would go through the list of games, talk about the uniforms and any abnormalities of like, this team wore these pants for the first time. This is the only time they ever wore this combo in their history of their organization.
Oh, like nerd level stuff.
Yeah. Like, I mean, legit, like, and then he would, and throughout the article, it would have like hyperlinks. So it would be like the Texans, it would be a hyperlink. Took on the Browns, and it was a hyperlink, and you would like click on it and it would show what they wore, click on it, show what they wore. And it would like
very detailed.
And this player, his sticker popped off his helmet after this one hit. Here's a shot of the sticker popping off his helmet, like little intricacies.
And like, how many followers does an account like
hundreds
that have?
of thousands.
Oh, wow.
And so I knew there was an audience of people obsessed with, his tagline was like the obsessive study of sports aesthetics, and aesthetics within athletics, I think was, so that's where I got the name of the podcast. And it's heavily influenced by him and what he used to put out on a Monday morning. And that's why I wanted to eventually get to this weekly format now, where I'm kind of doing his article
in the
heart of his article in the form of
an
podcast
art piece
and an art installation through YouTube.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of what like has led to that.
You contact this dude?
I have messaged him. He is like an old dude that doesn't want bothered. Like he hates any new uniform that a team puts out. He's just a grumpy old dude.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this in the light of, I love this guy.
Yeah, but that's all right.
Like, he's not the kind of guy, the vibe that I get from him is that he's like, meh. Like, he just like doesn't care.
Yeah, he just does
that
what he
I'd be
does.
doing this.
Yeah, he's like a Mark Madden type dude.
He's not a troll. He's just
not a troll, but like a person who's set in, like
stuck in his way.
Yeah, set in his ways.
Yeah, and I've never talked to him other than like I'll like fanboy message him over the years and been like, dude, I love your stuff, and he's just like, thanks. You know, it's like a Bill Belichick type. Like, just like
Bill Belichick.
That's type. Like, I feel like the personality I get from him, but I don't know him. I just love his work.
Yeah, that's cool that's like kind of how that idea like kind of came to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, like as far as it's cool because it all kind of interworks with like your brand as a whole. It's like we were talking about like your brand being like an umbrella, and it really is because, you know, your podcast kind of falls into like the subject matter that you're kind of focused on at this point in time. Do you ever do anything else that's not sports related? Like, do you ever paint like for pleasure, you know, that's not for business?
I yes and no. Right now, all my commission stuff, like if you're paying me to do a pair of shoes, I'll paint whatever you want on the shoes. Like I did some horror themed, I did some like Halloween stuff. I did some, you know, I do portraits of.
Are these people from all over just hitting you up?
Yeah, Instagram. I've shipped everywhere in the country. I've shipped to Canada. I've shipped overseas. I have, you know, people that have ordered shoes from every place. And
countless professional players. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I hope that every pair finds a new audience. Yeah, and that's like my goal. But like, you know, those are all commissions, so those pay the bills at the end of the day. And
yeah, but realistically, you know, that's you have to do that.
That's you know, sometimes I'm doing a pair of shoes that I'm like, dude, I don't want to paint your grandma on a pair of cleats.
Yeah, and it's not even underselling that that's like someone's grandma. It's just like for you to be an artist, it's not what you feel passionate about painting.
No offense to your grandma. I'm sure she's a great woman.
100%.
Like, dude, I don't want to paint her face for 40 hours.
Yeah.
Like that's like the longest thing to do is a portrait. And, you know, I'm going to have to stare at it for 40 hours. And it's like, you lose a lot of your creativity in doing that, but it feels good when you get the paycheck at the end. So again, you pick your struggle and you just do it. Yeah. And so I'm grateful for those orders. I'm not saying I'm not grateful for them because it's those people who empower me to do the kind of things that I am passionate about, like the weekly painting. Like right now, that is a passion project for me. Like doing these weekly things. Like I said, I haven't sold them. There is an end goal that hopefully it leads to something bigger.
100%. Them things are getting bought.
That's
my wild paintings.
I've had like 3 or 4 of the guys that I painted actually either share it or reach out and be like, I want this. But the thing is about these guys, they don't pay. They want stuff.
They just want it, like, you know. And you're like, brother, I would love just to, you know, break me off a piece,
bro. Come on, man.
Of my time. This is my time.
You know, help me.
I feel like you got to understand that. You know, but I feel like that. You know, there's times and places to invest, and whenever I say invest, it's like you painting a portrait and gifting it to an athlete, because it's like in hopes, realistically, you want to give him a piece of your work, but you want it to spread a little bit more. Yeah, because I mean, realistically, you know, cash, it makes everything go around. So you got to have, that's the reality of it all. Yeah. It's like monetizing things that you love. That's the goal of what we're all doing is like, that's the goal in life, to be able to pay your bills by doing what you love to do. Yeah. And it's wild. And that's an understandable side of your business, is like doing people's work that you might not necessarily want to do, and you having to do work that might be a gift. And like, that's a passionate thing. You like painting them things, but do you ever like, you know, are you ever just like sitting in your basement, just like one day, just like, you know, I'm going to just paint something random, like a bridge or something? I
actually have done that a couple times this past year. One of the pieces that I'm the most excited about, it was when Kendrick dropped his new album. Yeah. I just put it on from start to finish, and it was the first time I listened to it. So I had no expectations or whatever. And I love Kendrick Lamar. So I was like really excited about his new album coming out. And I put it on and I said, from the start of the album to the end of the album, I'm going to paint. And whatever this looks like when the album ends is what it looks like.
That's cool.
And I have that piece hanging now in my studio. I haven't put it up for sale, but like I said, it was just something that I just wanted to create. And I'm really excited about what it looks like. It's very abstract. Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask next, is like, do you ever like switch up your style? Because like you pretty much like the things that you post, it follows a style, you know, like you don't really have a lot of variance from that.
Right. Yeah. I think right now I'm on a warpath to like prove a point that like, I can be a very skilled technical artist. Yeah. So that later in my career, when I switch or start making a lot more expressionist type pieces or like abstract pieces, like I feel like sometimes people easily dismiss artists who start out in that. Yeah. And they're geniuses at their craft, but they may dismiss it because they're like, oh, anyone can throw paint at a canvas. But I want them to kind of like see this body of work that they're like, no, he can do
this stuff before he could do
he
that.
Wants to do this right now.
Yeah,
and
people don't understand like the abstract stuff.
Right.
They really think it's just like, oh, everyone's throwing paint in a canvas, but it's like I talked to, you know, he's an I don't know if you would necessarily label him as an abstract artist, but Steven Jaskulski.
Yeah, he was on your episode like 2.
Yeah, like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
but like that dude right there is like, you know,
incredibly
that's the closest I've ever been to talking to someone that was almost like a, you know, that dude, he got like a sickness in him.
Yeah.
He would explain it where it's like he doesn't do like the type of art you do. It's like obviously apples and oranges, but it's like the way that his mind works is like, people might just look at that and think that it's just like, what am I trying to say? From the untrained eye, you could look at your stuff and it's very like detailed. It's very vivid and it's very like fine and like these ones are kind of just like
chaotic.
It's chaotic. So it's like some people could like kind of undercut something that looks chaotic rather than like you with your fine lines and things like that.
Yeah, it goes back to the whole like you know, when you go out to the bar and there's a band playing, most people go to the bar where the band is playing songs they know. And not a lot of people are going to the original shows where they're playing their own music until they make it and other people give them that verification that like this is worthwhile coming and listening to. A lot of abstract artists are those people that are expressing their art and doing it in a genuine way. Whereas like I feel sometimes like the art that I'm doing is type of cover, but I'm still putting my own spin on it.
It's definitely.
But it's not what I'm going to do forever. So that's why like all these people that, you know, follow me, like I hope they understand like these pieces that I'm making now are not going to be something that I make forever. Like if I'm 45 years old and I'm still painting the same picture of Ben Roethlisberger and I haven't progressed my art.
Yeah.
So like these pieces, these hyper realistic pieces, they don't seem very limited right now because I'm pumping them out left and right. But once I hit a point, I'm telling you, like I changed up my focus a lot. Like I'm not drawing monster trucks anymore.
Yeah.
Like
you should do monster trucks next. You should do a big.
In high school, I did a painting of Gravedigger. It's dope. Yeah, I still got it.
Wow.
I'll give it to you if you want it.
No. Keep your high school picture of Gravedigger. You need to just give it to Gravedigger.
That'd be sick.
That's what you need to do. You need to give him the one from high school, and then you need to do a sick ass one now.
Yeah.
And be like, listen, I've been working on it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Should.
That would be dope because
I would 100% interview Dennis Anderson.
Dude, I've messaged the Facebook.
For real?
Oh, I'll show you it. Probably 3 years ago, I messaged it. I've been on it because whenever I remember exactly why I even did it. It was whenever I interviewed an actual person who dug graves. I made a post on Facebook that said, I'm looking, it was for her October. I was like, I'm looking for someone who digs graves.
Yeah.
Or I would also be open to talking to Gravedigger. And I tagged Gravedigger because that would be a sick ass person to talk to. Now, I mean, like, do you ever think about kind of opening up your lane for your podcast to just talking to everyone?
I would probably start another show.
Yeah.
I would keep Athletic Aesthetic to be...
I guess you would,
Yeah, I would keep that one show. And that's the other thing that I'm learning from podcasters in this world is that you kind of create your own channel.
Yeah.
And then you can, as you grow certain shows, you can launch more shows. So if I have a desire to sit down and interview random people that I meet or whatever, then by all means, I'll just do that and rebrand it as another show on the channel probably.
Now, what's your process as far as like, you know, the guests that you have on are like these like college players, you know, big name players. Did you have some Steelers on? Yeah,
I've had 2 Steelers so far. I had Chris Wormley and Benny Snell. And
okay, I know that name, Benny Snell.
Yep. Chris Wormley's a defensive tackle for the Steelers. Wears number 95.
Is he Big Worm on Instagram?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm familiar with him.
Yep.
I'm hip to him. See, I know what's up.
Yeah, you know, bro.
But it's like you have these people on and like, you know, you're obviously, you know, these are professional athletes. What's your process of getting guests on? You know, just through people you're working with, clients?
Yeah. So the 2 Steelers that I've had on the show, I've done cleats for.
Yeah.
And so last year, 2020, when I moved back to Pittsburgh, I reached out to, and I keep bringing him up on the show because I attribute a lot of my recent like progression to him is Cody Sable. And I reached out to him during the pandemic and I was like, hey man, like I have nothing, like I didn't plan on moving back to Pittsburgh. This pandemic kind of screwed us up. I don't really have like a lot of artist friends here anymore because I've been in Charlotte for 5 years. So it's like, you know, I was like, we had a very similar subject matter at the time because he was doing all the speed paintings and then his gigs got canceled. So he started doing custom cleats and like working with the Steelers and like also I saw his work being shared by the Steelers. And I'm like, he's doing very similar work to me. And I'd rather work with someone than compete with someone.
Yeah, many hands make light work.
Yeah, so I hit him up and I was like, hey man, like this is what I do. I'd love to meet you. We met and got coffee, and then he was like, he was just like off an all-nighter, like just in the grind of like working as an artist in the
he's a wild
pandemic,
one,
like,
too.
you know what I mean? And I'm just like meeting this guy for the first time. I'm like all excited to meet him, and he's just like
You just see him
half
dead.
asleep. We're at this coffee shop in Southside.
Covered in paint.
Dude, covered in paint. Like
Oh, yeah.
I had like the
He
nice,
pulled up here covered in paint whenever I interviewed him.
every piece of, I tried to not do that because like a lot of my clothes do have paint on them, but like
Yeah.
I have like one pair of jeans that don't, and I was like, I'll wear those to the podcast.
Yeah.
But
Make
yeah,
it look nice.
yeah, but that's what he showed up, and like he actually told me, he's like, I thought you'd never hit me back up because I was like a zombie when we met for the first time. And throughout a next like maybe year, we just talked on social media. And then I jokingly sent him a video, or he did, I forget who it was, but it was like of my washing machine in my basement, like next to where I work, like shaking the canvas that I was working on. I was like, we just need a studio, dude. Like, this is like ridiculous that we're both working from home. And then we started looking, found a studio together.
He didn't have one either?
No, he was working from his basement in his garage.
Oh, okay.
So we found this place in downtown Pittsburgh, and it was a decent rent. He's like, he's like, I'm doing this. So if you want to go in on it halves, we'll go in on it together. We had really didn't know each other. We just had a lot of similar interests and worked together.
Yeah.
So we moved into that space, and last year for the My Cause, My Cleats for the Steelers, Cody basically has an inside with the locker room there.
Yeah.
He's like first name basis with 99% of the organization, the players, and all those guys. He's done a ton of charity work.
Oh,
and
yeah.
all that. So My Cause, My Cleats comes around. All these guys need custom cleats for 1 week. They send Cody 40 pair, and he's like, hey, I can't knock all these out myself. Help me. So he passed a few to me, even though like some of the players probably don't even know
That
like,
you did them.
I did them. They were under Cody's like name and brand, but like I still would like message these guys and be like, hey, I did your cleats. I hope you enjoy them, whatever. And made connections and relationships with them through that. I did Benny's and I did Chris's. So that's how
okay.
I've formed a relationship with them over the years. And then I'm not somebody who's like, I have messaged certain people like George Pickens and like some big name Steelers that are like new in Pittsburgh. And I'm like, yo, please, I'd love to have you on my podcast.
Yeah.
And either they don't see it or they're just not interested or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd like to assume that they didn't see it yet,
Yeah.
but like, but usually when people see it, they're courteous enough that they'll
Either say yes or no.
I haven't had anybody say no.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, I feel like they just haven't seen it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting because like you definitely, some people are just like, they just don't shoot their shot. That's what
Yeah.
it is. I'll literally message anyone.
Right.
But
Yeah, I got no shame in that.
yeah, it's worse they could say is no. And people have definitely turned me down. And
Yeah.
it's like, whatever, it's part of it.
Yeah.
But then it's like, you know, I would have never, I almost didn't message Sally Wiggin. I was like, there's no way this lady will do it. And,
Yeah.
you know, she just does, you
Yeah.
know, Josh from the Penguins.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
You know, you just do it. Do you have a hard time like interviewing people?
Yeah.
Like, is it hard for you?
Oh my gosh, dude, it's so hard. I never thought it would be so hard. And I think now it's going to be a lot easier because as I listen to like Your Mom's House and like all these podcasts, comedy podcasts, all this stuff. And like,
Yeah.
I love how they didn't, Cody actually, I keep referencing him. He brought it up to me that he's like, they didn't have a guest on their show for a long time because they wanted their show to have a certain voice or like topic or whatever.
Yeah.
And then once they established that and knew what their audience liked and looked for, they knew how to like have their guests on and ask them specific ridiculous questions, but
Yeah.
like whatever, you know what I mean? So I think that's where I'm at now with these weekly episodes where I really want to build the voice of my show so that when I have a guest on, we can talk about that stuff rather
Yeah.
than
You're
just
working a
whatever.
muscle. It's definitely a muscle to figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
as far as how you want it to be, because I mean,
Interviewing is so hard, dude.
it's definitely difficult. It's definitely there's a certain grace to it that like you come to, but there's I don't know. I don't even know how, you know, from what it is now to what it was. I hated if you listen to any of these old episodes, like I interviewed Zach Pishney first.
Yeah.
It's literally just me asking a question, not listening to him tell me an answer, and just get ready with another question that I've written down. And it's just like there's no flow to it. But
That's how I feel about mine. I feel like I'm in. Yeah.
Well, you have to do it. That's why you have to do
Yeah.
it weekly. You got to work the muscle. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's that's like whenever I started this, someone said to me that like the number one reason that people stop listening to a podcast is because it is not weekly. And I just like always like kind of like, died on that sword that I was just like, it got to be every week.
Right.
But I don't know. It just takes time. So it's definitely a beast. What are like your goals? Like obviously this is something new, the podcast, you're building this brand all together, but like, what are your goals a little bit long term? Aside from like, let's say like, years out, realistically, would you want to do?
I want to like blow up and then disappear off social media. That'd be like the big goal.
Like that Jody High Roller episode. He goes, I want to blow up and act like I don't know nobody.
Yeah, dude. That's perfect.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. I want to grow the podcast and the YouTube.
Yeah.
So that I can work with sponsors and have like a consistent stream of income through a channel once I get that monetized. And then the art, then I can then pick and choose and work more based off of passion rather than paying the bills.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So that's my goal, is to grow all these out, like the video editing side of things where I have a team that we edit for like companies and stuff. I want to grow that. Like I established VC2 as an LLC last year. So I'd like to be an VC2 as an overall creative agency type thing, where I have different branches and people that work with me, and we can serve people in that way. But VC2art will always just be its own little subcategory of my art within that brand. So I think my overall goal is to grow VC2 to be something that is, when you think of creative, especially tied to sports, you think of VC2. And I don't know what that could lead to, but it hasn't died down or slowed down. It's only grown since I had that vision. And so I'm just leaning into that.
Yeah.
Hoping that it leads to the right connections and people. And yeah,
that sounds like a good thing.
Yeah.
It looks like it's doing well from afar.
Yeah.
Like everything really looks like well curated on your page. Like if you look at it and you scroll through, like I was scrolling through it this morning, it looks very curated, not to the point where it's like, sometimes that could be taken in a negative way, but it just, you have a good, it's just the vibe of it, the overall vibe of it. You have like a good consistent way of putting things out. You have a nice style of like editing, and it's like like I said, it's like a snackable content. It's easy to share, and it's interesting to hear that there's such like a audience of people that like are like that page you were talking about that has hundreds of thousands.
What's crazy is I have not tapped into that audience yet.
I know, and
I'm trying to pull my sneaker and painting audience into this world of
that's also that
athletic aesthetic.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, once I break into that world, I know there's 100,000 people just in that community that would be interested.
Yeah.
So it's like
they just have to know about it.
Right.
Yeah, that's the hardest part.
Always.
Anything I did not touch on as far as like your brand in general?
No, man. I think I just talked about myself more than I ever have in my entire life.
It's the goal. Here whenever people come in here. But all right, we'll get to the gauntlet. The ending segment that I do with everyone is called Desert Island Questions. Okay, Desert Island Questions is whenever I give each guest 3 categories to take with them on a desert island and use until they starve to death and die. First category, 3 movies to take on a desert island.
Okay, so I'm too much of a fan of I love hearing people's responses to these when they're caught off guard by them.
But you
unfortunately, I'm too big of a fan of your show.
Did you think about it before?
That I had to prep a little bit.
Did you?
Yeah.
People listen to it 100 times and they're like, I don't know why I never thought about it.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't extensively think about it.
What are they?
So I go back to like high school.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy Mike Stanich, where we had like these inside running jokes of me, myself, and Irene.
Yeah.
We really loved that movie.
So good.
And so I think back to that. It has to be one of them.
Yeah. Could never come out today.
No, God, no way.
Jim Carrey, classic.
Yeah. Me, Myself, and Irene.
It's been a long time since I watched that. I got to watch that again.
Yeah, dude.
I kind of forgot about it.
It's definitely not politically correct.
Not at all.
In any way, shape, or form. But
It's
I
hard.
feel like anything that came out before 2012
Exactly. It was a Wild West back then.
Yeah.
To think about that 15 years ago, like I just watched, I just made my wife watch Grandma's Boy, and she's never seen it, and she was like, Jesus.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
just like, this is just wild, the comedy that comes out years later. American Pie.
Oh my gosh.
Wild.
Yeah.
That's a good answer, though.
Yeah. Another one I was thinking was Little Nicky.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Love Little Nicky. And then the third one that I thought of was, it's probably like not in the direction that I thought I would answer, but recently Encanto.
I never
Disney
watched
movie?
that yet.
And the reason is because it's the first movie that me and my daughter really got into together, because it dropped
together.
like at the perfect age where she started really understanding movies.
How old is she now?
She's 3.
So was it a year ago?
Yeah, we started watching this past summer. It was real big in our house. Like
Okay.
it was, I mean, still to this day, we get in the car and we listen to the Encanto soundtrack. So I feel like for my entire life, that movie will always have a like place in my heart.
Yeah.
So I think that would be something that will always bring me joy. So I would have to include
That's
that.
a good answer.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. I'm glad you didn't pick this, because the second category, I usually ask people 3 books, but I'm curious to know, what's your favorite sports movie? Like if you had to pick a football movie, like what are a couple of the ones that you liked?
Friday Night Lights, because it came out when we were in high school, peak of like our career. So it was just such a, I mean, it was like, man, it like launched this excitement to be a high school football player. And even though we were on an awful team and we didn't relate to that movie at all.
So bad.
I thought I was Boobie Miles, you know? So like,
we were so bad.
yeah. Waterboy's a great one.
Yeah.
I mean, classic.
There's a lot of good football movies.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Little
since
Giants was one of my favorite ones.
I recently just came across the program the other day again.
Oh, yeah.
You ever see that?
No.
The program is a good one. You should watch it. It's about college football. Wild shit.
Yeah.
Steroids, everything.
I'm real excited. They said there's a documentary coming out about the Urban Meyer Florida team that had like Tim Tebow, Cam Newton, Aaron Hernandez, like 40 of their graduates have like since been convicted of some felony, and like they're doing like a documentary on it or something.
I feel like I heard about that.
It's going to be wild.
That's pretty wild. Yeah. I feel like I just watched a sports one. The most recent thing I watched was Hard Knocks. You know, that's like the most football that I've ever consumed.
Did you watch the Lions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
You know, I loved it because that dude reminded me of Coach Pete.
Yep.
And,
biting kneecaps, dude.
yeah, just a wild animal. They reminded me of wrestlers, WWE wrestlers.
Yeah.
And, I think that's what I loved about football the most. As far as like, you know, it was cool going to the games and everything like that, but I loved like the camp vibe, even though it sucked doing like 3 days, but like it was fun to be able to like play soccer with a volleyball and, you know, those were the fun times.
Yep.
Is that mural still in the weight room in the high school?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
Scumbags.
I know, right?
You should be like,
It might be.
You should get back in there. You ever go back to the high school?
I haven't been inside in a while. I think they just put in a gaming center. Did you see that? It's crazy. It's not the same high school that we went to, and it's only
I
been
bring
like
it up on here a lot whenever it's just like it's kind of messed up because like we didn't have shit,
nothing, dude.
You know, bare bones.
You couldn't even leave the classroom, let alone now students have a cafe and like a gaming center where they're encouraged to go.
Yeah, it ain't fair. This shit ain't right. It ain't right. But
I mean, we were kind of assholes though. We probably shouldn't have been trusted to do any of that stuff.
High school was a weird time. All right, 3 CDs to take with you.
All right, so this actually, I thought about this. Growing up, I loved Incubus and Red Hot Chili Peppers. Those were like my two, because my dad was like a big rock guy, and so I grew up listening to DVE and the X, and so those were like the two that really stuck out to me growing up. Other than like Limp Bizkit and like Kid Rock with like Ba with the Ba and all that stuff. Like,
Linkin Park and everything.
So I was gonna say, and this is why I really thought about your questions. Okay, I was gonna say Californication, Red Hot Chili Peppers, but I have Little Nicky as one of my movies, so I have a few of those songs on so I don't need the album.
Yeah,
I have the hits on the movie.
That's fair.
So I don't need to bring it. So that opens me up to in college. Well, let's start with this one first. Go back to high school. I think when I think about music, I think about like moments rather than the actual song. Because like I said, I don't have like an ear for music.
Yeah, it's just wherever the moment brings you to.
Right. So I think back of like locker room songs in the locker room that got me ready to play football. And so in high school,
Lil Jon and Korn.
Parkway Drive, dude.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't
Boneyards.
Killing with a Smile.
Oh yeah.
All the songs on that album like remind me of being in high school in the locker room ready to play a football game.
I thought you were going to say the Korn and Lil Jon Coming Undone remix.
Dude, yeah. On our highlight tape every year.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, like that album, I wasn't even real big into that music scene.
Yeah, but that just was like a moment.
I just
like System of a Down, Toxicity was like played by all the seniors whenever I was a freshman.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you know, that was like burned into my mind just in that weight room. I could hear it just like, you know, a whisper of that just all the time.
Yeah. So I would pick that album because I genuinely like all those songs, but it takes me back to like a good time in my life.
Yeah.
The other one was Man on the Moon 2. Legend of Mr. Rager. Yep.
Yeah.
Kid Cudi. I love Kid Cudi, especially because now that was like our anthem in college football. Like we would put on Mr. Mojo and like Mojo So Dope and like those songs were like always blaring out of the speakers. So think about that. And I still love it to this day. So that would be the second one. Third one, Swimming. I know a lot of people have said that on the show, but it's such a
good one. It's a classic.
Great album.
Can't really beat it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely been picked a lot. I should go back and pick and like tally up
how many?
What all has been picked numerous times.
Yeah.
Probably won't ever do it, but it would be cool. Okay, third category, we already did the categories, but third to last question is the death row meal. Mm-hmm. Death row meal, before you get put to death, you get a appetizer, main course, and a dessert.
Appetizer, I'm not sure on the appetizer. Maybe like a dude, I don't know. I feel like in a death row meal, I'm going for comfort.
Yeah.
Things that I know. I'm not trying to experience something new or like wild.
Yeah.
You know, I'm about to die. Like I want to be secure in what I'm eating right now.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm going for the main course. I'm going Tilly's gnocchis.
Oh, that's a good answer.
I grew up on those. Love those.
Classic.
Yeah. I still sometimes just go back and just...
Yeah, you know what you're going to get there all the time.
Dude, I love their gnocchis.
Good stuff.
I don't know about like an appetizer. That's why I'm like kind of stuck on.
You don't have like a consistent of what you get all the time?
Where at? Like
Anywhere.
Just in general?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big app kind of guy.
No. Okay.
Lindy is. She's always getting the appetizers and I'll like pick at them. But I'm like, no, like I know what I want from this restaurant and I want to eat as much of that item as possible.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So I don't know. Maybe like throw in some, maybe some wings. There was this local brewery and this place in Charlotte that I used to go to a lot called Salud Cerveceria. Really incredible Mexican street style wings with like corn and like this white cream sauce on it. Fire.
Okay, that's good.
I would add that.
Okay, what about a dessert?
Dessert. Let's see.
Frosty Cone Mon River Mud.
Yeah, dude. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like that's another thing. I'm not a huge sweets guy.
Dessert guy?
Yeah.
Not at all?
I would say like a chocolate chip ice cream sundae, chocolate chip cookie, ice cream sundae type.
It's nice and classic. Just classic.
Dude, sometimes I'll just stop at Sheetz and just get an ice cream sandwich with the like cookie and the ice cream. Just because. Yeah. Just because. I'm just like, dude,
why not, right?
Need this right now.
Yeah. Chocolate taco before they got taken away. You know, sometimes you just had to.
You know, no shame in that.
No shame in it. Okay, second to last question. If you were getting ready to go on a road trip, you go into a gas station, what is your snack of choice?
Either like chips, dude. I'm like a pretzel guy. Like I just like salty.
Yeah.
So like the pretzels,
I'm never a pretzel guy.
I love
unless it's a
pretzels.
Snyder's like honey mustard pretzel nubs
yeah.
or whatever.
Dude.
That's it.
Plain pretzels.
Yeah,
I love them as long as they're salty.
That's savage.
I just like rock.
That's
them.
one thing that like, you know, I would never turn down food, but back in the day and like in middle school and stuff, people would like, oh, do you want a pretzel rod? It's
yeah.
like, get that dry ass thing out of here. I want a pretzel rod.
Yeah, pretzels, or if I'm like going for like a sweet thing, I'll do like some Sour Patch Kids.
Patch Kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good ones. Those are good answers. That's a good both spectrums.
Yeah.
Okay, if you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why? I feel like your father would be an assumed answer, but if it's not a loved one.
Dang, that's hard. Because I would have said my dad.
Yeah.
But if we're ruling out like loved ones.
Yeah, because I feel like I give everyone that answer because if someone has a grandparent, a parent,
Right.
I feel like that's the main choice.
Yeah.
But it's always interesting to hear that like someone that you don't have ties to really. It's
Yeah.
like I hear everyone's answers and like, I always try to figure out like who my choice would be. And it's like, it always changes obviously, but I always go back to like Robin Williams and it's like, it would just be cool to have a conversation with that guy, or like even Mac would be cool, but it's like people like Robin Williams, Richard Pryor.
Right.
It's like people like that would be sick. Jim Carrey, but like, things like that.
Professionally, I'd love to sit down and talk to Pat McAfee.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a wild dude.
Yeah. I think he would be
hustler.
so fun to get to know. Like he'd be such a cool
I've messaged
person
him numerous times
to talk to.
Yeah.
But if we're not talking like professionally or like whatever, like just in the whole scope of the universe, that's so hard to answer. But I would have to go back and like, dude, I want to talk to like some of these people that like claim they've been on the moon, and like I want to have like a serious conversation with like some people that go down in history and like as known for one thing.
Yeah.
And like get to know them. So I don't know if I have like one person, but like there's just so many things, like questions I have about life and our existence.
Yeah,
and like the
that's fair.
easy answer maybe is Jesus, but like,
I know. He's been picked on here a good bit.
it's like, dude, yeah, because at the end of the day, it's like if you could have one conversation to square away all the stuff, that's all that matters. It answers all the other questions that you may have.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's understandable. But if you didn't have this like all-knowing conversation, to try to figure out life.
Just a dope conversation.
Yeah, just a dope conversation with someone. Who would it be?
I'd like to sit down and have a conversation with Mike Tomlin.
That would be cool. It would be cool. I listened to him a little bit on The Pivot. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, he was on that.
And I think that's the first time I ever really heard him in like a long form type of interview. And he seems like he's
just a good dude.
Cool dude. Yeah, just a really cool dude. And then I think Pouncey was on, and I saw
just
a clip,
recently.
Yeah, where he was saying that like Tomlin was like a dope dude that was just like a great leader of men.
Yeah,
and that would be a good answer for sure. I feel like he would be fun.
Yeah,
I think that it's dope that Big Ben is having that podcast, and like I said, that's why I've really never reached out to any football players because I don't feel like I would be able to have because it's just like I don't really have like I didn't love it. I kind of hated it. So it's like that's why like I don't know. I'm worried that I wouldn't be able to have a great conversation, but it's like people that do different things like that. I feel like I don't know. He would be a good one.
Yeah, he would, because the other thing too about your voice is like you talking to Ben Roethlisberger from somebody who didn't fangirl over Ben Roethlisberger for the last 20 years.
Yeah,
might provide a unique perspective, like you said.
That's why I swear to God, I was going to message him and be like, listen, dude, I'll be completely honest with you. I have not watched a Steelers game in a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not a crazy fan,
Yeah.
but I would love to talk to you about, just your life as a professional quarterback and what you're planning to do after, because I'm obsessed with long form conversations. I'm obsessed with getting to know people in that personal way rather than like, people being on an Ellen DeGeneres and being on for 5 minutes of them just promoting some bullshit.
Yeah.
Just cookie cutter. I want like all the and like, that's why I don't cut any of the shit out, because like you're just, this is an authentic version of people, but it's like Ben Roethlisberger I've been seeing the most authentic version of him on this podcast that he's doing. And I don't like, they talk about sports. I don't really care about it.
Yeah.
But just to hear that, someone who lived a life sports for like, how long has he been playing? Last like 25, 30 years of just every day football for the rest of your life. And him just sitting there eating chips and talking with Tomlin sunglasses on and just like cutting up. I'm obsessed with that idea. And I love that. And I feel like it's dope with what you're doing, because you could add both to that, because you give an opportunity to be able to like have that inside with like these athletes in a way that kind of gives you that initiation, but you can kind of like have the opportunity to get that end of it as well. That you don't necessarily get all the time. Because you can't really tell with people online.
A lot of these athletes are very creative. But they haven't been encouraged in their whole life to tap into that. It's been get in the weight room,
football.
Hit something as hard as you can, whether it's a weight or a person. So
that's like, why it's fascinating.
That's why I like to sit down with them and be like, if you could dream up a uniform, what would it look like? And sometimes it's like the first time they've actually had a creative thought that week. Sometimes, like people like Benny Snell, he's one of the most creative dudes that I've ever met.
So he's like real into it.
He does music. He's like a streamer. He does gaming. Like he's cool. Very creative. So all the ideas that he has for like custom things are, usually fun to work on or whatever. So then when he did that uniform design on my show, that's actually what launched that segment, because he was the first person I did that with. And it went like
you had
crazy.
A plan to ask him about that?
That was like the first time I sat down, and because my first 3 episodes were artists. I had Cody, I had another sneaker artist named Zach, and then the 3rd episode was actually Zach again with Jake Polino, who's like a social media influencer. He like dyes shoes and coffee, and he just recently launched his own shoe brand and moved to Miami, and it's like taken off. Like he's viral with everything he posts.
Oh, wow.
But he has like a show on Complex that he hosts called One of One, where you sit down with our sneaker customizers, and it's on Twitch. So it's like just live stream 2 hours of you just painting and talking to him. So I was on his show once, and then I invited him to be on my show. And those were the first 3 episodes. It wasn't until episode 4 that I got my first like athlete to agree to be on the show. And then that was when I was like, okay, I need to come up with some actual questions rather than just shooting the shit with like some of my artist friends.
Some sort of structure to kind of fall back on if you need to.
And so many people shared that. Like 93.7 was talking about it, like his uniform design. They were like, and I was like, oh shit, like people care about this. So I was like, all right, I'm going to ask every guest on my show now to do that.
It's cool. And it is. That's a cool thing. Yeah, it's definitely cool with what you're building up as well. It's wild to see.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you I know initially when you first launched the show, I was living in Charlotte and I wanted to come back.
I know we were planning whenever you came back one weekend, and then you went back down.
It was always so quick when we'd come back. It would be like for someone's birthday or something.
Quick weekend,
and it was like so hard to get away and do anything.
I know, and that was whenever I had 2 jobs. I was working at Threads too, so it was like weekends were torn up. And it's wild. I don't know, dude. Everyone's an adult. It's wild to see, like we were talking about before we were recording. It's just like weird because I still feel like, last week we were all in high school and stuff. But we're all just adults, just have houses and doing adult shit, just like trying to get by.
If you could go back, would you go back though? To like high school?
I think that the only reason I feel like I have to say no, just because I feel like I wouldn't have met my wife. But if I would have went back, things would definitely be different. Like but would I have the knowledge that I have now? Because like I literally never made any decision. I made surface decisions my entire high school. Never put any thought into me being like, oh, I might really like, I made clothes for a while. I might really want to like, I might want to go to screen printing. I don't give a shit about like art or anything like that. I'm terrible at painting. I don't know why I took art rather than screen printing or photography. I just would be more open to following what I was passionate about rather than like me just playing football. Me just, doing this and that just because. I don't know. It's a weighted question, but ultimately I'm happy with how things are. I'm happy with where this is. I'm happy with like, how life kind of turned out. I'm kind of a glass half full guy. I try to be like that. I try to feed the good wolf and, keep that in my mind, because like, I don't know, I get crazy anxiety about shit. And if I don't like kind of work that muscle to try to be a glass half full guy, like I can get like I had a rough last week, rough last couple weeks, just like with like just shit in life, work. And, I like checked myself and, just kind of step back and reevaluate things. And I don't know, it's just constant grind, and we're all just like out here trying to figure it out. Yeah, that's why I wanted to have you on.
I appreciate it, man. Really, I do.
Yeah.
This has been great. It was like for me, like I said, I've always respected you because you're such a truth teller and that you don't promote things that you don't believe in. So I'll be honest, like this might be like one of the coolest invites that I've ever received, because like I just appreciate when people that are real appreciate me.
Yeah.
Because that means a lot to me. So I appreciate you having me on and doing this.
Yeah, likewise. Definitely, for sure. Take a second, give all the information where people could find all your work, see what you do, the whole thing.
Yeah, just at VC, the number 2. So VC2art on all platforms. That's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and then YouTube now. So if you go to the VC2art YouTube page and subscribe to that, that's where you can find my podcast. That's where it's a video form. A lot of visual things, so I prefer you would watch it. But if you want to listen, it is available on the VC2art Spotify and Apple Podcast and Amazon. But it is mostly a visual show, so if you want to listen, you can still listen along. But if you can watch on YouTube, that's where you'd find it. I have a website, vc2art.com, and on there you can find links if you're interested in like a custom painting or custom shoes. That you fill out a form, and I'd be in touch with you to get you a price quote, because every price is different for every project. I have a merch store for my podcast and for my art. It's on my website as well, vc2art.com/merch. Other than that,
that's it.
Hit me up. Yeah. DM me.
All right. Everyone else that's listening, appreciate it as usual. Each and every week, we're back here doing God's work. Appreciate you listening. Call you right back.